Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the February 25th, 2019 Board of Selectmen meeting. Before we get started, if we could all rise for our invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance.
God of all creation, we come before you today to give you honor and praise. You are worthy of praise. You are the source of all that is good. You are the source of all of our blessings. Thank you for every gift that we have been given. We thank you for the opportunity to come and gather together this day. We ask for your hand of blessing on this meeting. We ask that you would guide and direct our meeting so it's full of wisdom, productivity, and respect for one another. We thank you. We thank you for helping us to accomplish our work and our goals. And for each of us that prayed to you this evening, we each pray to you in the manner we were taught. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So first, I'd like to thank everybody in the audience tonight and everybody watching on TV at home. As always, we'll try to clear the room as quickly as possible. So first and foremost, let's see here.
We have the public hearing, so we have to do that.
Public hearing? Sorry, I didn't see the license. Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
It's at the top, it should be.
At the top? Oh, there we go. Okay. Last place I look is at the top. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, so if we can have those folks come up, to talk about the beer and wine license. Well, I'm gonna have them come up first.
Okay.
You can pull a couple chairs up if you want, John.
So, all right, first and foremost, we have to open up the public meeting, okay? We need a roll call for that? Need a roll call for open a public meeting? Or?
Yes, a motion to open the meeting.
Okay, just a motion? All right, so if you could.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we motion a second for the public meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, public meeting now in session. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good, good. If everyone could introduce yourself first for the board.
Guess I'll start. Steve Flynn, half owner of Noonan's in Georgetown.
Karen Manzer, head chef of Cafe Serena's.
Kelly Duffy, general manager of Cafe Serena.
Okay.
And Steve Flynn Sr.
Okay, welcome to everybody. I understand that everybody is here tonight to talk about getting a license for your beer and wine license. First of all, congratulations. Everything seems to be going pretty smoothly. It looks great.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Fantastic. When are you guys scheduled to open?
We're hoping May 1st.
May 1st?
That's what we're hoping.
All right, we're looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. Actually, with that, why don't you tell us a little bit about what the vision is?
You guys want to go for the menu and
Sure. We brought menus for you all to look at.
Sweet.
Yeah, you can just
The cafe will be family friendly, farm to table, a little bit of something for everyone. So there'll be some comfort food classics. There'll also be some healthy salads, some local ingredients, trying to take advantage of the farms that we have around. But there should be a little bit of something on there for everyone. Mostly lunch and dinner specials. We will have some breakfast as well. Coffee and espresso drinks, smoothies.
We're going to move the Callie's cones up to Cafe Serena.
Oh, you really?
And then the mini golf, the ice cream, and the cafe are all going to be in the one building.
Okay.
And there's going to be a nice, beautiful, well, it's already built. There is a patio out there that's going to overlook the waterfall with tables and chairs for outdoor seating and a fire pit.
yeah.
Okay.
The inside's going to have a fireplace as well and live walls and going to be decorated with some amazing plants and flowers.
Where are you going to get those?
I don't want to be shopping around.
No, I'm hungry.
You guys did such a good job on the miniature golf course that, with the trees, plants, and all that stuff. So I'm sure it'll look great. All right, fantastic. Anything else that you want to add before we actually open it up to anybody with questions?
Probably.
No? All right, so why don't we start off with the board? Anybody on the board want to start with any questions? Sure. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, congratulations again, guys. So it looks like you're gonna serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner? That's the plan?
That's,
Yep.
yeah, that's the plan. We're still kind of nailing out the plan of how it's all gonna work, what our hours are actually gonna be, and when things will be made available. But, you know, we like to be open all the time.
Sure, sure.
You know,
So-
7 days a week, so.
What did you propose for hours of operation for the liquor license?
We were hoping it to,
I applied for the full,
okay.
till close.
So
I
what
think
time
does
would it
it go
start?
till?
Start 11 or
I think
12?
the license said on it, it was 11, I believe.
11? And then until closing, so what time do you guys expect to?
Oh, you mean
close.
from open? I applied
Yeah.
for the 10 a.m. opening one, and then till 11 or seasonally, maybe 10,
Okay.
depending on, could be 9. It's hard to say.
It's hard to say in
So we
Georgetown.
know how busy it's gonna be and how successful. It will be successful. We
We're
just,
kind of hoping in the summertime when the mini golf's open, that's
Yep.
pretty much open till 10:30. So we're hoping
Okay.
that during the summertime it might be open till that time, but winter months maybe,
Tone it
They
down.
scaled back a
Tone it
little bit,
down,
yeah,
yeah.
okay. All right, great. And then I assume you guys have your tip certified, you have all those requirements
yes.
for serving alcohol, correct? Okay, great. Yeah, I think other than that, I can't wait to try the food, so look forward to you guys opening. That's it for me.
Okay.
If I'm-
Yep.
So you're gonna have outdoor seating, right?
yeah.
So for the outdoor seating, will you be serving alcohol until 11 p.m. too? Is that the goal?
I mean, I would say we would serve until close, depending on what time closing is. But it's strictly just the patio that's attached to the cafe. Nobody can bring their beer or wine onto the
The
mini
mini
golf
golf
course.
course. Yeah.
Or
walk
off the
around-
patio.
Yeah, they can't walk around. They can be inside or right on the patio. They
Okay.
can't leave that area.
You guys will have signage on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, no alcohol beyond this point.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that late enough for you, Kip, or?
These days, at 9:30, I'm in bed. But... No, that's all I had.
Okay.
And that, just to, so the building's set so it's overlooking the golf course. The patio is more set up against the stone waterfall off to the left-hand side, so
Yeah.
it's not in view of public at all. It's kind of,
It's kind of down like, yeah.
it's kind of like in its own little cove
Yeah.
by itself next to a waterfall, but there's a bunch of, you can't just dive into the waterfall either.
Not too bad.
And the only person's house there is yours.
Yeah, right.
Steven, again, this is just beer and wine, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I'm just glad to see that it's opening. We've been waiting for a long time.
Yeah.
And it'd be good to have a, another eatery in the town. But everything, I went through this packet and everything looked okay.
Yeah.
And you guys have long-standing reputation in the community anyhow, so
Thank you very
I'm
much.
just looking forward for this to happen.
What's happening to the building where Callie's Cones is now?
We really haven't really decided on much over there.
No?
Storage.
Yeah.
Okay. Gary, you have any questions?
You know, I looked through the packet, everything looks in order. I know all about your family now, you know, it's all in there. No, I mean, you've been good neighbors for Georgetown, and I wish you the best. I know one of your neighbors somewhat, and I remember when you were here before once, looking for a seasonal license, I think it was for farm type, however you do it.
Oh, yeah.
Wine, I think it was wine testing, and I kind of reached out then, and that person great neighbors. So, I mean, and that's good to hear. And like Doug said, you're known in town. You've done wonderful things for the town. You give back, so hopefully this will work for you and give back to all your family members, and it'll be a great asset for the town. So it's good. It's exciting to see something like this happening.
Thank you.
What's your capacity for the restaurant, do you?
65.
65.
But it's
Yeah.
split.
65?
The floor
Okay.
plan has Callie's cones on one side.
Kinda
with
see
seating
that,
for
yeah.
about 20 to
20 to 20,
24.
yeah.
Came out a little small on that packet, but
Yeah.
Okay.
In the center is an open kitchen,
yeah.
and then the other side is the cafe side that leads out to the patio.
Okay. So is there going to be restrictions for kids in certain areas, or is it just kind of there's no bar, is
There's
there?
no bar.
No.
There's no bar,
It's
okay.
counter.
See, I
Yeah, it's all
gotcha.
counter service.
Gotcha, okay. All right, good.
Do you see receptions or anything in the future, or any? I don't know if you're on the.
We thought about
Anyway,
dinners. Karen might do.
Might do a farm to
cooking
table
classes
dinner or, wine pairing or beer pairing dinners that have become extremely popular. So we've talked about that, but that would be in the future.
Yeah. So you see perhaps working with some of the newer
Absolutely.
wine and
Absolutely.
beer ventures and that. But, yeah,
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
good.
One thing at a time, right?
Yeah. Just get this going.
There's new things opening up in town. Who knows what the future brings? So.
It's true.
So is there any, like, event room, like maybe in the lower level, or is that just all storage?
It's all
and
storage in the lower
utilities?
level.
No,
Yeah.
Good, and then I did notice, and we were talking before the meeting about entertainment and having, I think it was mainly acoustical type
Yeah,
hearing, or?
I did apply for an entertainment license because when I came to collect all the applications, I was like, oh, it would be nice maybe to have somebody do some kind of guitar singing on the patio in the summertime or inside. Coffee houses and stuff seem to
Sure.
be doing that lately. So, but not any wild, crazy heavy metal bands.
Air band,
No,
yeah.
we're an aging
Forget it.
community, so we need a little quieter time.
I don't know. Do they have any neighbors here or anything, Mr. Chair, that might want to? I don't know if anybody came for it or.
I had a
Yep.
question on cider. I mean,
Yep.
beer and wine, everybody's doing hot cider now. Does beer and wine encompass hot cider or beer cider? And I mean, I'm saying legally from, you say beer and wine and comes to be winter and someone wants to do a,
I think it comes under malt, but I'm not sure.
okay, I'm
A
just
hard
wondering if
cider?
you can do that.
Yeah, would come under a malt beverage, so it,
Be allowed?
classified as a
Okay.
beer. I would think so, yeah.
Okay.
And potentially a mimosa as well.
Yeah, it encompasses champagne.
As this is a public meeting, I open it up to anybody else who has any questions, comments.
Very exciting.
Anybody? Anybody? All right. If does anybody else have any questions, comments, from the board? If not, we could get a motion.
Close the
Oh,
hearing.
that's right.
Mr. Chair, I move we close the public hearing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Second?
Motion is second. To close. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now I move that we accept the request for a wine, beer, common victular, weekly and Sunday entertainment licenses for Cafe Serena. Is it Serena
Serene, yeah.
Yeah, we should do them separate.
separately? Okay. Forget what I said. Mr. Chair, I
This
move.
is an alcohol hearing.
Right, oh, okay.
We
I
did
move-
have on the common victular.
That we accept the request for beer and wine license and for Cafe Serena.
The hours.
Expiration.
Hours, what was it, 10 to 11?
Well, we can be open as early as 7 a.m., but we don't want, obviously.
I think on
We applied
Sundays
for
it
the
has to
10
be
a.m.
10 p.m.
Yeah.
Sundays it's 10 p.m.
Don't they have to be the same as everybody in town, basically, when we do a license?
Yes.
That's what I thought, yeah.
This-
So what's the?
So what are the hours?
So what are the hours?
I don't think we even have to mention them. I mean, that's posted in our
Expiration
policy.
date, probably, right?
That, I know that the application did ask if we wanted the earlier Sunday one.
Yeah.
Do we have to mention the time, Mike?
Separate.
I don't, no, it's based on what
As presented.
Well,
the state allows.
why don't you put that, per state reg?
Third time's a charm. So, Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the request for a beer and wine license for Cafe
No, but they can-
Serena
has to be open.
to coincide with the other
Bylaws,
beer and wine licenses in the town.
opening. They have-
And it's set to expire December 31st, 2019.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We have any further discussion on the board? Okay, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Can we do the other ones, boss?
Yeah, the only, on the common victular, we don't have the
common
sign-offs
victular,
yet.
Okay.
Because they're still in the process, so
Okay.
I did talk to the electrical inspector, he's just done rough electrical, they haven't had Board of Health out yet,
Right.
so the common victular does require the sign-offs.
Yeah, that won't happen.
It could be, if you wanted to vote it contingent on
Can we do
us getting them,
conditional?
and then they don't have to
Are we,
come
are we
back.
okay with that as a board? I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the request from Cafe Serena for a common victuals license conditioned upon the completion of required inspections or sign-offs. And does that expire December 31st, 2019?
Yes.
Expires.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Any further discussion on that? Okay, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You got everybody on that?
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so now we can do, is the entertainment licenses require any conditions, Janet? No.
No, it
So
wouldn't have to.
I move that we accept the request for a weekly entertainment license for Cafe Serena to expire December 31st, 2019.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that?
Do we have to indicate that weekly and Sunday
Well, I was going to do Sunday.
separately? Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the request for a Sunday entertainment license for Cafe Serena to expire December 31st, 2019.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion on that? Okay, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. That's all of them, so we just have those sign-offs that you need.
Okay, you're all set?
Thank you.
Wish you the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Expect to see you all there.
We will.
All right, next, why don't we have the discussion regarding our park and rec director. I understand we have a bunch of people here in the audience for that.
I'm assuming you all got
Sit up
this.
there, Jim, that's number
John,
one.
did you share this? This is the stuff I sent you.
No. Sorry. I didn't know I was supposed to put it in.
That's okay, no worries.
Thought you would have been in.
And I probably just need to grab one for myself and look on with Gary. Since I did, I think I might have made it.
Here you go.
Mike have one?
Thank you.
Mike, do you need one?
We'll give one
Mike,
at
do you
the
need
end.
one? I'll give you this. I just need to refer to it.
Yeah, I'm
But
good.
you can have it.
Well, welcome, everybody.
Well, thank you.
Before we get going, if everyone could introduce themselves for our audience.
Sure. I'm Carol Jacobs, the superintendent of schools.
Mike Jennison, School Department. Jim Demento, Park and Rec.
Erin Duggan, president of PTA.
Welcome, everyone.
I'm Marie Katz, I'm a member of the PTA.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for taking the time. All right, so I know everyone is here. We've had a number of conversations regarding the potential for a Parks and Rec director to help the current board with certain functions on that board, which we have discussed with Jim a couple of times here, in which he has visited. Those couple of discussions, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but, it was felt by Parks and Rec that it was helpful if you did have someone come on as a director to help with some of those functions.
Yeah, I've had more. I haven't had official vote yet, but I've had. We've had my last talk meeting. We had 2 in favor and 2 seemed to be against. Gary wasn't there for the last meeting, but we'll have a meeting on Wednesday, which we could formally vote.
If you don't mind me asking, Jim, what the 2 that are against, what is there?
There's a number of factors that we had teen centers back in the 1980s, and they're going back to 1980s, and it lasted, and then it didn't, and some issues with that, some issues with funding, a lot of issues with funding because our budget, we're asking for a $65,000 position, and our budget's $65,000, so it's really trying to, where's the money gonna come? We did talk, I talked on to Carol on Friday about trying to get a fees-based system where we have, we can, like when the dog park comes online, there's a dog park fee. There's a beach fee for the beach for both in town and out. So there is the potential for having fees handle it, but we don't have those in place now.
Right.
And that was the main thing is, I think everybody realized that it's coming, but the question was this year and this time period.
Well, if I may, Jim, the 2 folks that were against it, which, listen, it's their right to be against it. That's fine. I get it, especially when it comes to the funding, right? Because it is probably the glaring topic, of conversation there. And we may have tried it before, right? But, in the 80s, in the 1980s, we also had phones that went, this is a different time, right?
Sure.
So I would hope that maybe we did it better, this time, and we were better equipped and better.
And I also know Carol has said that all the other communities have it, and it's a reasonable, we're one of the few communities that don't have a Park and Rec director.
Carol, who has directors right now at the Park and Rec?
Well, Aaron had done some research for us. A lot of the neighboring communities have people who work and do a variety of things within their community. Our mission here was to, if you recall, was when we went back. I think Mike, I guess, heard you guys talking about concern about finishing up things like the parks and all the different things that in town that Park and Rec was involved in, and the challenges with the fact that it was a volunteer board, and they were doing most of the work in town, really, to get it done. And then at the same time, we were talking about trying to figure out a way just to do a very soft opening of a rec center or a youth center, realizing that, of course, you have to make sure that that's something that, will fly. So our goal, when we looked at that, was, wow, gee, is this a time where the town could actually serve a lot of purposes, right? So unfortunately, what I gave you was not what I thought I gave you. But Aaron does have the document that we, and you all have.
Do you want to put it up on the screen?
Can we forward it to you somehow on your machines?
I think you can just connect right there and we can.
Joe has it on your email from today.
This way we'll be able to,
I can do my hotspot if you need it.
the people at home will be able to see it too if we can project it in. If that's all right with you, Mr. Chairman.
That's probably
Just in terms of,
I don't know.
just in terms of the process that our little group has been following, so what we're going to show you is what we've thought about is, number one, really what are we trying to solve here? What are we trying to help the town do? So you'll see when you have an opportunity to do this what our rationale was, okay? And part of the rationale is, especially as the town has grown, and especially as now you've got more passive and active recreation than you've ever had before in town, and you've got more coming on board. If you get the East Main Street fields online, now you've got a dog park, you've got another field, you've got, what else is there, Jim? You've got the dog park. Jim, what else is there? The dog park?
As far as down there?
In the East Main Street field.
Right now, there's just a dog park, but there was, eventually, hopefully, it'll be a skate park. We're not sure if that'll be included.
So
It won't be part of this phase, right?
Okay, so if it is, So you've got that project. Once that comes online, somebody's got to care about that, right? Somebody's got to take advantage of that.
Yep.
You know, like I said, with the rec center, it's really for us, it's just repurposing the space that we already have, getting some donations from the community in terms of how to, we've got a lot of furniture and a lot of things that, so it's really for us, it's just getting somebody to staff it. And initially our plan, PTA's got some funds that PTA will put toward that, and we'll do some things with maybe some college interns and do some volunteer stuff. But the hope would be if in this first year, if this park director of recreation and youth services comes on board, they would, part of their job would be to get it open, right? Work with the kids, get it open, work with the community, and see what it is that we want in terms of programming. It, you know, our thought was that that would be the job number one for them in terms of the youth center. They have to also take responsibility for all of the current fields that Jim and his group already take advantage of. Plus, if you have a rail trail that comes online, you know, somebody's going to do that. And then, of course, there's American Legion Park, which, you know, Jim and I were talking just about the fees. So, like, for example, what they do in a lot of communities is they'll have maybe and you could decide if you wanted to do this yourselves, but they have sort of a fee for internal community people. You know, if you can use it for unlimited amount of time for X amount of dollars, you put a little sticker on your car. But for out-of-town people, you know, we looked at, you could charge, I think Jim helped me with the formula, but I think it was.
I would go with I would go with what Andover does. It's the same situation. They have a beach at a park. They have an in-town use permit, and then they have a daily out-of-town. And it's been approved by the Attorney General. I wouldn't change the wording in one word.
Is that Palms Pond?
Yes.
But if you looked at it and said, all right, what if you just conservatively said, you charge $20 a day for the car, not an individual person, but for the car. $20, you got, let's say, 10 cars a day, which I think is very conservative. And let's say you're looking at 4 months or something, I think we were talking about. Because Jim said it starts getting busy in June and doesn't stop getting busy till, you know, late September, early October. If you looked at that, and he said there's people there, 10 cars every single day, you generate over $25,000 just doing that, right? So if we're worried about paying a salary or paying for this, that, and the other thing, that's just one resource you have in town that you could maybe leverage. So the discussion with Park and Rec, which is kind of why we weren't sure if we were coming tonight or not, because our original plan was to come in March and have more time to talk. We haven't talked to Park and Rec. Jim, of course, has. And John Dunleavy's been really helpful as well. And our thought was, because when Park and Rec talked about this, they didn't have a proposal in front of them. They didn't have a proposal. And I know the FinCom has the proposal in front of them because we forwarded it to them as well. So we just need to make sure that they get it. But as you can see, if we just can run through this really quickly with you, the rationale, you can read it for yourself, but one of the things that's been nice about this is that the work we've been doing, the work Park and Rec's been doing, is really a collaborative effort, you know, from Georgetown Athletic Association to CPC, who's really helped us with funding for a lot of the resources in town here. You know, all these departments have worked together in this town to do a really good job on getting more options available for town residents. If you can sneak down there, Erin. So just to be a little more specific, right? So good example of how, whoops, can you go back? Of how things have changed, right, is we've constructed an all-weather synthetic turf field, right, and that is used really all year by the community. Even when GAA isn't using it or the schools aren't using it, there's people out on that field, right? And that, of course, donated by GAA, and they're raising money actually to replace it in 10 years when the carpet might need to be replaced, which I think is an incredibly generous contribution and offer. And CPC, you know, we're very grateful to them for approving the funding for the site work on that. So also, you know, the town has improved and continues to maintain fields on West Street, American Legion Park, Little's Hill, and the upper, we maintain, Mike and his crew maintain the upper fields at the Middle High School, making sure they're aerated, mowed, and scheduled by different groups. Our fields are very busy. Newly constructed fields at Pembroke, which now have come online as part of the building projects, which clearly have increased options. And now there's the proposed project we were just talking about on East Main Street that wants to add more field space, a dog park, and possibly a skate park. Project obviously needs to be completed. There have been structural improvements to the American Legion Park, including a new playground structure, band shell, bathroom, refreshment area, all to use, to encourage the facility's use. Even though there have been some challenges that have been arisen, there does need to be a plan to oversight and monitor the facilities during the high peak times. There's the development of the rail trail that the community's been engaged in. Go ahead, Erin, if you can go down. The new construction of the basketball courts that were and shuffleboard and bocce court, which we're hoping to do. Thanks to the CPC, we just received information recently that that's been approved by CPC. And so that would be hopefully constructed in the summer behind the Pearly School. And it benefits more than one group in town. Identified the space and the need for a rec center on the second floor of Pearly. Using the available space, volunteers, and donations from the community in the first year, we can actually provide a place for youth to gather in healthy and positive activities they can engage in, reducing the risk factors, which is great. And then there's currently a group in town talking about the redesign of the upper fields at the middle high school, which is very early in the stages. So for all of those reasons and all of those changes, we're proposing that the town begin to discuss what we can do to make sure. The other thing to keep in mind here is, I think we're in agreement that the Park and Rec Department current model has sort of benefited the town, but is definitely outgrown its current self. It's basically overseen, as we said, by the board of directors, and paid. Jim is an unpaid director, but is expected to do a lot. And I think kudos to the board of directors, who really does a great job actually conducting projects. So they do some contractual services with some groups, but for the most part, they've really taken this and run with it. And I think that they are currently the only department in town that doesn't have a paid professional to manage the work. And I think the purpose of doing the bulleted list above is to show how much work there really is, and that isn't going to get less. In fact, it only has the potential to increase. So, for all those reasons, we do think that it's time for a full-time director of recreation and youth services for the town. Then what we did is we went and we said, here are all the knowledge, skills, and abilities that we're looking for in that person. And, I'll just give you a minute to sort of, kind of quickly read through those if you have any questions or you think we've missed any.
Actually, I do, if I could, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, just quickly, up top there, if we go back a little bit, is the goal of this to support what we do now, plus the school
that's right.
fields as well?
No, we're taking care of the school fields.
Okay.
But we're just saying that the town has changed and all
Gotcha.
of these things, are coming online. And we would expect that this department recreation director would be working with the schools for sure. But no,
Gotcha.
we will maintain the schools.
Still maintain
fields.
this, okay.
Right, Mike?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I think the confusion before was, what is the position? And it looks
Yeah.
like you
Yes,
guys
and that's
have
what we
ironed
thought
that
that was
out here.
right.
Is
So-
it an overseeing? Is this person overseeing? Are they doing?
Well, they have in
Working
year
director?
one. In year one, it's a working. I think it's always going to be a working director.
Okay.
But in year one, we've been sort of narrowing in on getting the position, understanding that depending on as time goes on, you might have to add 10 hours of clerical support for the person. If you want the person to be out and about and doing things, they can't be worried about answering their correspondence or chasing down a document, right? So, but initially, we feel that we are proposing this be a full year.
Okay.
Full-time position with benefits. Today I was asked a question, would it be 4 days a week or 5 days a week? I said, it's a really good question. I'm just thinking full-time. I 5 days, but, it depends on where the person is based out of, I guess, so they would have access. But I see this kind of job as one that's kind of fluid, depending on the activities and where they need to be.
In the season.
You know, in the season.
I was gonna say, I think Carol, you and I discussed that,
Yeah.
you know, it depends on the season too, because during the winter, like there are no fields,
Right,
you know,
right.
that you're gonna be tending to, and it's really gonna be about the rec center and also doing some formation of maybe some other programs we talked about, maybe the Christmas tree lighting,
Exactly.
maybe another, you know, function in
could be a
town,
winter
whatever.
carnival. You might have a
But
winter
during the
carnival.
summer and spring and everything else, now they got the fields online, and it's just open. So I actually see this person actually, you know, working more hours in the spring and summer, and this is just
Yeah.
throwing it out there, spring and summer,
Yeah.
and maybe even come back a little bit, you know, to a regular, smaller schedule, you know, during the fall, winter hours, but yet it still comes down to, you know, a 40-hour
Sure.
full-time position.
How the structure of it, I think that was the other
Yep.
questions in terms of, you know, typically the way that government works here in town, right, is you have a board that oversees.
Yes, we're gonna get. we're gonna
Employees.
do
Oh, you
that
are?
for the
Okay, I'm
state.
sorry. I didn't
It's
mean to
okay, no
jump in.
problem. So
And
then,
before you get going, Carol, one thing I have to stress, and this is for everybody's benefit, the school is not, you know, it's not heading this.
No.
All right, Carol is nice enough to lend her time to this because she feels it's important, like I do, but it's not a school function. Okay, this is going to be
this is a town.
a town, but really almost a Parks and Rec,
It's
you
a
know,
par- it is,
position.
it's there, it's
Right, and
there.
one of the things too, you know, like right now we have Juliet doing all the GA fields,
Yeah.
all the fields. Hopefully this new person
Right.
will take all that on. You'll be able to get up in the morning and say, I want to play baseball with my son at American Legion at 10. You can go and see if the field's being used.
Right.
Stuff like that. So there'll be services, additional services just by that continuity.
Yeah.
That will work in. And there'll be other programs like in the spring if it's slow, well, maybe we can do sailing lessons in the spring that we don't have to do in the summer and keep the activities going. In the winter there'll be a cross-country ski trip down the Rails Trail or something. Things will open up that will additional things for the people of town to enjoy. So they get up and say, what are we doing this weekend? And there'll be a couple of things that they could theoretically do if they wanted to.
But thank you for clarifying that, Joe, because as I said, you know, as schools, we're the largest employer. Obviously, we have a lot of things, you know, at our fingertips. And one of the things that this just allowed us to do was sort of put our heads together and help, you know, a group of volunteers.
Right.
You know, I put together proposals all the time. So for me, it's just facilitating a discussion, but it only works if the town wants it. It's not the schools. So we talked about certifications and licenses, which we thought were important. You know, most job descriptions will have like physical demands, so, you know, the person would have to be able to meet these. And I'm assuming that other positions in town might have job descriptions like this where there's certain physical demands that they have to do.
Carol, once again, can I stop you on that? So Jim, regarding physical demands, you know, my thought process about the director is that they're going to be out and about, you know, doing everything, but you're still going to have your board, right, that this director is going to be reporting to. But the board is still going to be active in helping out with fields. I mean, you guys do a great job with the fields
Yeah,
now.
I mean-
But I don't see a director having enough time and energy to do all the fields every single week.
I mean, more and more, we're transferring funds to Peter to help us, assist us.
Okay.
And there might be some more coordination with Peter's group. Hey, instead of us getting 15,000 landscaping, why don't we have you do this job and we'll give you some percentage of that and save both the town money.
Okay.
You know, so let's keep a coordination. I think the 100 pounds on that list is a little bit high. We actually had locked ours down to like 40, 30 or 40 pounds because we don't want the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, that's a lot.
No, but I'm saying, but ultimately, he has to be able to do something, you know, help out, assist.
Yeah, help out and assist is one thing.
But
but
we don't want
in terms of
the
doing
guy-
every field and,
Right.
and doing every
We
single
don't want to lose
function.
someone based on the
Yeah.
physical demands.
And there'll be some money still there for contractual services, right? So if there's somebody that they, like if we needed to pay Peter Durkee, let's say, you know,
Right.
to do it, there's money in there. And if you're raising fees, then those fees get redirected right back into the cost of whatever your programs are.
Okay.
And a lot of programs can be self-sufficient. For example, right now, they have a guy, Mr. Gondella, thankfully, who in the past has put together a number of teen programs, but then he charges the kids, you know, for the program. Like, let's say it's a dance. He charges the kids for the dance, and then he can charge for his time. So, you know, there is an ability to, you know, have
And other towns have membership fees for the kids.
That's right.
You know, $200 a year is nothing to many families when they're paying $200 for 6 weeks of something.
Yeah.
You know, or $300 for a week of camp.
Yeah, that's
You
a
know,
good
this
point.
is an accessible area, so that could help offset.
You're talking about the rec center?
The
Yeah.
rec center
Yeah, the rec center,
specifically, but
like on a
that could
quarterly
offset
basis. Yeah.
the role.
Sure.
Right. But
I
it'd be
agree.
park
Could you
and
put
rec-
that into the requirements in terms of them being able to come up with ideas of how to get revenue?
Yep,
So you
it's
did,
up there.
perfect. Look at this, I'm jumping ahead.
So, no, those are the knowledge, skills, and abilities. So now if you keep going
Where's that
down.
one about?
Well,
Oh, it's further down.
Further down.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
yeah,
I'll be quiet.
but we can consider putting it there too. So there's the essential functions of the
Functions, I
job.
think, yeah.
Right. So the proposal is that this is a 12-month position with benefits, a salary range 55 to 65. Because you could potentially get somebody who's, you know, got some experience, but 55 is not a bad starting place. So basically, you can see the task. So they would be required to hire, schedule, organize staff, right, in all of those areas that are under Park and Rec's control. They would be coordinating with other town departments. So for example, let's say Colleen wanted to have a bocce tournament on the bocce court, right? You know, this could be something that the director could, you know, help her organize, right? Or let's say in the summertime, the turf field is kind of quiet, much quieter in the summertime. Perhaps Park and Rec wants to set up some kind of leagues there, you know, that, you know, they want to run. You know, again, there's all kinds of possibilities. They're obviously they have to purchase and maintain inventory, supplies, and equipment. They have to be able to supervise all programs. That doesn't mean they have to physically be there every single minute, but they have to know what's being run and be sort of overseeing that. They need to communicate with staff, obviously regarding expectations and outcomes. This person, you know, obviously would take their direction from Park and Rec, but as the leader of the department, they would be communicating to their staff what the expectations are. Schedules and requires the maintenance of town grounds. You saw that before. Meets regularly with the board, so helps prepare the agendas, you know, just some of the clerical kind of things, keeps the minutes, and coordinates with the chair. Drafts and presents a preliminary annual budget, an annual report, which Jim says they already do now, and, you know, approval of the board. Files, keeps confidential files, which is why down the road, depending on how big it gets, you know, you might want to get some clerical person because you're going to get a better value for your dollar if the person's out doing the programming and, you know, and communicating with the public rather than filing. And maybe there's a person that works in town right now that wouldn't mind 10 more hours, you know what I mean, to make a more of a job for themselves. And then, you know, obviously keeps the board informed, collects and receives money from programs if there's, you know, stickers. So it's kind of, they got to know procedures. They got to know the town's procedures. Orders and organizes, you know, all that kind of stuff. Go ahead, Aaron. Thank you. The town celebration. So Joe had asked, you know, could we consider the annual tree lighting? So we put it there. But we also thought, well, maybe there could be other town celebrations. Maybe there could be a winter carnival or something else that, you know, the town might, you know, really want to do. Works with other town boards and committees on the completion of the East Main Street fields, which sounded like that was important. And follows, and one of the things Jim and John had said is they have to really know town regulations and bylaws when proposing projects, like that they have to get that. Develops a yearly strategic work plan for the board with short and long-term goals. Oh, you know what, Jen? I don't see it here now that you mentioned that, Steve. Organizes and oversees the setup, opening, and operation of the teen center in conjunction with volunteer organizations, students, and other town departments. So we will add that because that is, and I'm wondering if is this the one I just sent you? Because I think there were a couple of changes like,
Oh,
you know,
maybe.
but that's basically
Sorry.
it. I think that's
We
basically
talked about
it.
adding grant writing and that.
Yeah, the one that's not there is the one we
Yeah.
talked about adding,
sorry.
which is to seek,
fine.
you know, seek grants and, you know,
Yeah.
make
Wrong
recommendations
version.
for additional revenue sources. So we
Yeah,
will make
because
sure
that's going to
that.
be key if they want to grow the department.
Yeah, and it's also leveraging the CPC. We wanted, for
Yep.
instance, we're using water in American Legion. We should have a well
Yeah.
Because it'll pay itself in 3 or 4 years, and you know, maybe we can get that done through CPC if we word it the right way.
Sure.
But there's plenty of these little projects that we could throw in, and having someone keep a short-term and a long-term plan on things.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So this is the part that we didn't have a chance to talk with Park and Rec about. So obviously, we're trying to keep the new money to the town at a minimum in year one, because we do understand that it's a challenging budget year, right? So we thought, well, if we took the director in year one and we 55 to 65, and then they already have, I think it was, I don't remember what my number was, I think it was 67 and change
Right.
is their current budget. So, you know, if you kept 27 of that, you know, and really prioritize what those projects were that you were going to do, whether they were contractual services. But now you have somebody who can actually mow some of the fields, or we could maybe get Peter Durkee's group to do something more efficiently than what Jim's group is currently paying.
He's mowing most of them now, so.
Yeah.
But
So
there's other things, yeah.
yeah, so the goal would be, you know, in the first year would be to basically redirect, which is our favorite word, which is to redirect money from that, oh, there it is, 68,038 was what was in the budget I looked at. And if you took 40 of that, right, and redirected that into the salaries, kept the 27 to do projects, and then if the town would come up with $25,000 in year one, obviously plus the cost of benefits, you could get this position in the first year.
If I could stop you there again, Carol.
Yeah.
So, and Doug, maybe you can chime in as well. So this is something that we're really positioning as, you know, helping our kids, you know, again, help them make good choices, you know, kind of keep them occupied, right? Utilize their time more efficiently than, you know, say other things they're doing after school. Right? You know, someone had mentioned Dunkin' Donuts and things like that after school. So I really see this as possibly something that maybe we can utilize Georgetown Cares money, as it is something that I think kind of coincides. No?
No.
Okay.
That money has specific uses.
And isn't this a specific use, you know, with our youth?
Well, no, it's more towards the education and prevention of
The program.
substance use and misuse.
Okay.
It's like we bought a curriculum,
Right.
you know, on
Okay.
that. It's not a youth activities.
Got it.
I think initially, you know, initially PTA's got a
That's
little
what we're-
funding that
yeah.
they'd like to put toward this to, you know, to help us get that ready. But, and again, the goal here is to get a director to do all this work.
Yeah, sure.
With the youth part being a piece of it, right? Even if we opened the youth center on Thursdays when the library is not open, because sometimes the kids, some of the after-school kids go to.
Yeah, it's awful.
You know, so if we did it on Thursday and we did a Friday afternoon, early, you know, evening thing, just to get it started, just to get the kids excited about it. But again, that's one aspect of this. And then, of course, going down a little bit further was just an example that this doesn't include revenue that could be generated from fees and other funding sources like state and federal funding, grants and donations, which once you have something up and running, you tend to be able to get more grants. It's not usually for staff, but for all kinds of programs and services. So, and that's just an example of that. So ignore that you have the old one. Because when Jim and I met on Friday, which I will make sure you all get the new one, when Jim and I met, we changed that to the non-resident $20 a day. Jim said he didn't think there'd be 50. When I was originally thinking it, I was thinking, well, if you have 90 days in the summer and you figured on Friday, Saturday, Sunday are your busy days. You might get traffic those other days, but those busy days are where you might get 50 cars, although I think Jim said you can't even fit 50 cars there.
I
So
thought
that
you
kinda blew that-
could get 10 if it's, and 6 days a week, because one day would be a rain day, so you won't get somebody.
Yeah, so the
But-
point is, you
Yeah.
could raise between $20,000 and $30,000 in that one venue.
How come you didn't put any potential revenue from the rec center?
but because we were only making one example, we could go through and do that, but
We
I
have a
don't,
proposed budget. I mean, we've done a budget.
yeah.
For the rec center?
Yeah.
Because I think, I think there'd just be a
That was
lot
like
of interest
fully
there, and that could.
Yeah, I think that was fully
But if
functioning.
it's
you
a fully functioning,
Right, fully
yeah,
funding,
program.
which we're not proposing in
Yeah.
year one.
Year one,
But-
yeah, no.
But the nice thing is we have it if we need it in subsequent
But I just
years.
want to kind of show the board here that it's additional revenue that would
Yeah.
go towards, any, cost of this
Well, as
position.
Aaron said, the ability to have memberships, one of the things the kids wanted was snacks. So, we saw in Newburyport what they did is they bought snacks. The kids could buy them. They were, 50 cents to a buck, but then they just took whatever money they raised and reinvested it in the snacks, right? So some of this stuff is, would be self-sufficient.
Yep.
And as I said, we anticipate that a lot of things will be donated by the community. Whether they're big screen TVs or, game, those foosball things
Yeah.
that people have in their basement that their kids outgrow and they don't know what to do with them. Just those kind of things. Couches that, kids could, sit and watch a movie or, places where we could put like a homework space. We'd also like to create one of the spaces be an arts space with a maker space, which again, we feel like we could get
Funding for that.
donations and funding for that.
And private sponsorship.
So to that.
I agree with that.
So to
wholeheartedly.
your
This
point,
is-
we could raise some revenue by having kids pay for fees and do a lot of things that would be, just self-sufficient. But again, you have, as Jim pointed out, you have other areas in town too where you might potentially be able to, that other people utilize that, are reasonable fees that, unfortunately, I hate fees, but, in the schools, like for after-school programs, we try to keep the programs' costs as reasonable as we can. It's certainly competitive and a little less expensive than a private situation would be, but, people pay a fee for that. People pay a fee to play athletics. Like I said, I hate them, but it's how we can run, it's how we can afford to run the programs we're
I mean,
running.
right now we have pickleball, you could charge a fee. People could say, I want to reserve tennis from 2 to 3. So if they actually reserve it online on a computer, they have to pay a fee.
I mean,
So
GAA
they know
charges a fee for.
They know it's
things that
their
they-
allocated time. It's the band, not the bandstand, the pavilion, making sure that that's completely
You could
paid
rent,
every
you could
time.
rent the space out, right? I mean, so there are a number of things. I think the real goal and the reason we're talking to you is, we think that, the fact that the town has done a really great job, and I know I said to Joe, I've personally sat at probably 4 strategic planning meetings in the town, and over I've heard people say, we really want the quality of life to be here for our families, for our seniors, for everybody, and part of that is active and passive recreation. So the town's done a great job of increasing the opportunities, but now, you have to maintain them, you have to oversee them, just to protect the town's investment, if for nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, Camp Dennison's had some weddings with people who it worked fine for them. They weren't looking for an expensive wedding, and that seems to be an avenue people are looking more at. And we could have parties down at the beach and like you said, and have reserved areas. As long as it's not crazy money, people will, you want to make it so they say, boy, this is the best value. If I look at A, B, and C, and there was 3 times as much.
Jim, just as an FYI, there were already parties down at the beach. We just don't know about it. We're not charging.
I'm talking about birthday parties, yeah.
Opportunity for revenue.
Listen, there was a wedding there. Yeah, we didn't know about it from what I heard.
So the goal is just to put it in front of people. We understand the budget is tight. That's why the thought was if we could redirect for part of the salary, ask for minimal new money, and then continue to explore the options of revenue to offset the cost.
Yep.
And that's kind of why we're
And
here.
Carol, we really haven't talked too much about grants, but there are a number of grants that are out there. I did have a conversation after the meeting that we had 2 weeks ago with FinCom on this, and I did talk with Representative Mira on it. I haven't had a chance to talk to Senator Tarr as of yet, but Representative Mira, outlined a number of different grants
Yeah,
that
Senator
we
Tarr is
could.
very interested in helping.
And him and I are going to talk this week, but Representative Mira certainly did outline a number of them.
Yeah.
The problem was there weren't a lot of them that really were designed for startup money.
Right.
You know, it was more for specific functions within a rec center or, you know, different rec, you know, programs that a town would have. So, you know, we basically to learn about those, but again, they would offset, you know, costs and things like that to the point that maybe we can have this be self-sufficient on its own and really it wouldn't come down to town money. So, Steve, I know you had a question.
Yeah, actually, I had two. So if we can go back to that 27,000 that we were talking about,
Oh, yeah.
that was the
Just,
contracted services. So that's highway department?
No,
Is that right?
well,
Or no?
right now, Jim, what do you do with, you hire?
We hire
We hire landscapers, we hire people to do certain works. So, you know, any type of maintenance done on the park that the maintenance man can't do. We have, the docks came in, we hire someone to take in the docks, take out the docks, stuff like that. It's just we hire people to pressure wash, you know, the certain areas or fix the roofs. Or we did the new electricity at the bandstand. That was $3 or $4 grand. We painted the walls of the bandstand. So there's maintenance on every area. At Little Hill, there was something there we did. We fixed the fence a couple of years ago because it was pulled up. So it's just general contracted maintenance.
Yes, so to that point, it sounds like that we're still gonna need, you're gonna need a person who has an electrician's license or something to do work, right? You can't have a director do that. And I think the other question I had was.
You'll have some contracted services.
Yeah.
Steve, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the equipment then, if we're outsourcing, do we have the equipment to do it ourselves? Or do we need to purchase this equipment now to have a director do it?
Equipment for?
Like landscaping, for whatever we're contracting out for mowing or.
We buy the lawnmowers for Peter and he mows our field, so we've been contracting Peter
we
to.
could contract.
We got a
So
deal.
we can use his lawnmowers then?
No.
He uses his lawnmowers.
We have some services. We have a gator that someone we can do light maintenance, but there is some things that we won't be able to do. But
That's my question. So if we're saying that we're gonna offset that with this person, if we don't have the equipment to do it, how's he gonna do it?
It's also my hope that, for instance, we get a lot of stuff from the light department. When we have the lights go down, they go in, they put in the new light bulbs for us. So
Equipment.
having a guy on staff, having a guy down there.
Let's stay with the equipment question though.
Oh.
So how do we get the equipment for this director to use to offset what we're contracting?
Truthfully, it comes from us. We pressurized the tennis court. I brought my pressurizer down there and had someone use it. So you have guys around town, find someone who has a piece and is willing to loan it. We needed the lights put in. You get a guy who has a front end, has the lift. So some of the contracted services will have to stay, but it's like you said, it's more the people with the certifications.
I appreciate that, and I think it's great that people do volunteer.
But I'm
if
saying
we're
with a
gonna
guy on staff Monday through
or
Friday, he'll be able to.
Who has an extra pressure washer, all that, I think that's awesome, but if we're gonna hire someone, we can't have a town employee go to our friend Joe and use his pressure washer, like that won't fly liability-wise. So I think we need to come up with a plan and say.
Any tools or?
We have a gator, we have some tools, but we would have more, we would have the need for more, but like you said, it's also the person who's running it. You can't get an auger unless the guy's, is physically strong enough. What's he gonna do? He's gonna start putting holes in for fence holes?
Yeah.
It's only so much.
I'm just
you can
playing
lease,
devil's
leases,
I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I think it's great that you guys have come up with this. It's a lot more comprehensive than I think what we had before, and I think that's terrific. I'm all for the idea of it, and I think it is needed. I'm just kind of putting on the financial hat saying, is all this going to work out? Like, are there things that we're not thinking about?
We have a retaining wall CPC's paying for. I think one of the things we got to do, this person's got to do better, is identify the big projects and see how they fit into the CPC funding. For instance, like if we have this parking lot, you probably need some improvements. So there could be an in and an out, and so you can keep track of who's paid and who hasn't.
Sure.
Maybe there'll be an improvement to the parking lot area. That could be a CPC, recreational area improvement. But yeah, there is this. It's tight. There's no doubt that this first year is going to be tight.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I think if we increase the fees and start working on getting a fee-based system on some of these things, we could help to offset it.
Well, I think we all agree that, especially when I was talking to Carol, that, again, as Jim said, first year, it's almost like going to be a work in progress, right? I mean, you got to, put someone in, and that person is going to outline, okay, you know what, I have to be here, here, here. Here's the way I'm going to do this. But there may be some shortcomings, and that is something that they'll have to note. And then we have to go back and say, all right, this is what we need. Maybe second year, we do this, this, and this. For the first year, it's going to be a lot of, give and take. And second year, maybe we correct those. And then second year comes, and we might have some more challenges. And, it's going to take maybe, a little while, maybe a few years to get everything running the way we ultimately see it, going. But
Sure.
It will be definitely a work in progress for the first year.
Can I say one thing about the tools?
Oh, yeah, go ahead, sir.
Likes the tool.
Because not all the departments have all the tools.
Yeah.
We all borrow from light, highway, water, school.
Okay.
Peter borrows from us, we borrow from Peter. We
So
borrow
that
from
is
the water.
possible then to do that.
But Park and Rec may have limited access to tools, but once he or she's working with all the other departments,
Okay.
they could come borrow whatever they want.
That's great then,
You know,
yes. So it is
Eventually,
there.
they may need their own
Gotcha.
truck or something, but I think in the first year, they could come up with a list and
Where I'm
work
at-
with everybody. and
Where I'm at work, I can't say to Peter, hey, you gotta move those rocks.
Yeah.
But you have a guy that's paid, he can go, I'll meet you at 11. I gotta move those rocks and I'll show you where to move them.
Sure.
I mean, so a lot of that stuff gets lost because, we're just not gonna have, give them. So I think it will help in some respects. Some of the shared services will be using more.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that you
Yeah,
guys did
we
that.
all
That's great.
We-
swap
all of our
and
departments
trade.
share.
All
Okay, great. And what is the, I actually wasn't able to make it, I was sick, but what was the FinComs? Like, are we doing it for this year? Is that the proposal, or
Well,
is it,
well,
is there money in the
Well,
budget?
if I could answer that. So FinCom was at best, kind of on the fence, and I say at best, because number one, they thought it was a little late in the game to come, with this. And by the way, if anybody has any remarks on that meeting, please, add them. They also had concern because we are at a deficit already, okay, within the overall budget. So thinking that this might not be the best time, for it. My thought to that was, I don't think we're ever going to be at an ultimate state where it's going to be the best time, for it. I think they felt that it might have been even a little rushed. I disagree with that because we've been, even on this board, this goes back, we were talking about this in the fall, even though we started conversations then. And then I think, Carol and Mike came first time when?
December.
About the Parks and Rec. So,
And Jim was with
we've been talking about it for a while. Yeah, Jim has come a couple of times and we talked about that, the director. But I think when Jim came, we were talking about that director position as being a part-time just for the summer and spring, and then you introduced the Parks, which makes
we've been
a lot of
working on
sense.
this for a while.
So it's been kind of a revolving thing, and and I think everybody here has done a great job putting this together.
I agree.
Gotten some people involved, with our with the vision. But does anybody else want to add anything about that meeting? Because I don't want to be just the sole voice of.
I was just
their-
curious if
their
we were
feedback.
gonna be doing a debt exclusion or an override, or what's the...
I don't think an override.
If we're in a
is something-
deficit, so...
Well, because we always start with a deficit. It depends on kind of how that kind of plays out.
Yeah.
I mean, we could certainly not be in a deficit after we kind of hash everything out.
Sure.
And I'm sure Mike will give us a little update on the overall budget towards the end of the evening. But I certainly don't think an override is something we'll consider with funding this position, including myself. I will not entertain that. It's not what it was designed for. Okay, so as much as I would love to see it, I think that it would add a lot of value. And as I said in that meeting, Steve, I think we're taxing our citizens every single year. It goes up and up and up. As I've said many times, I think we got to show them something for those taxes, and I think this would be a great facility, to show our taxpayers, here's, some more services. There are plenty of parents out there that I think would find a huge need for this for their kids to go to,
Sure.
after school while they're at work or whatever. So, yeah.
From a financial standpoint,
From a
then
financial standpoint,
we'd
we
have
have
to
to-
find it. Well, we'd
We
have
would
to
have
cut
to.
back on something, basically, is
Yeah.
what we're saying.
Yep.
Okay.
You'd have to find the $25,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it was a lot less than, that was another point, so thank you, Carol. It was a lot less than, say, our original, estimate. Originally, it was 65 plus benefits. I actually just threw the initial, I think it was 27,000 that, Parks and Rec had in, for their contracted services, so that was the amount left over.
Gotcha.
But I kind of threw out there that, hey, we don't know what the amounts of the grants are, or donations, by, private sector, or any funds that are raised either through parking or fees involved with kids using the center.
Right.
Because if you talk about 25,000, that could actually be raised, pretty quickly.
On the park.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just
Summer with others out of
implementing
town.
these different things.
Yeah.
And again, I just don't want anybody kind of overlooking the benefit, of this. It's a great benefit to our citizens, up and down, between functions, giving kids, the ability to go somewhere, having the fields taken care of, so everybody can enjoy them. And as was noted by, Jim before, this position is getting bigger than what they can handle. So this is also something I think we're on the cusp of really saying, okay, it's time.
Yeah.
The current board needs help.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I think
Plus, when the rails trail,
after seeing this presentation now, I feel a whole lot more comfortable.
when the rails trail goes through, and you see maps what the towns have. You can go to the Flynn's place if you want to have eat, because there's a rails trail there. You can go to CVS and park there, and then you go into the businesses and get snacks. So you want to entice people to use the rails trail when it comes through, and you want to have the signage. You want to have all the waste baskets, the trash barrels, and all the things that they need. And I think having a person go in green with all this stuff and that stuff, it's just going to be too much. It's going to have to be soon, because they're going to need 2 or 3 years under their belt, really, before the first year's not going to be good.
Sure.
So just
And I can agree.
Can I add
Yeah.
what Joe was saying?
Sure.
So I actually had a meeting with Ed Dobie on a couple of other things, and he expressed, exactly, I think what Joe said was exactly what he expressed, was, kind of the timing, not having, because I think at the time when you all met, they didn't really have any information, and you didn't really have anything concrete.
Right.
So I think in the absence of information, and in the absence, and in the presence of, okay, we have a big deficit, I think it was just like nobody knew what to do with the
Right,
information.
right.
So just to give Ed some information, I did give him a copy of the proposal.
Okay.
And went through it with him. And then he has subsequently sent it to his board.
Okay.
And I think they have an interest in discussing it further. I don't
Yeah.
think they've taken it off the table. I think they are saying what you're saying. Gee, with all the information, maybe it is something that we should entertain, but that's as far as I know, is that it
Yeah.
is in the hands.
I think with all the information I have today, which is great,
And I'll make sure you.
I could support it.
I talked to
support
Ed
it.
too.
I would just need to know
Right.
The funding.
where we're going to cut it, yeah.
I talked to Ed too at about 11 o'clock this afternoon, and like I said, we have some more work ahead of us. He's listening, but
Yep.
he's got concerns about, like I said, towns in the negative, so.
Sure, oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so if that were to be resolved or reconciled in some ways,
Okay.
I think conceptually, just like you're talking about conceptually, I think there's support for it. It's just a question of the logistics,
right.
like anything else, right? The devil's in the
And
details.
we've mentioned that a couple of times. Ed also conceptually is in favor of it,
Yeah.
but again, he has a real
Yeah.
worry. He has a
all have that
focus on the budget this year, how he wants to handle it from a FinCom standpoint. So I don't want anybody here or watching thinking that Ed is against us. It's not
Oh,
the
no,
case.
no.
But I
it's
wasn't
actually-
aware the PTA had a little bit. Maybe there's other organizations out there that
Yeah.
got a little bit, that can help with this effort now that we're on TV.
Yeah.
Having the PTA come aboard with
We've
a
been
little bit.
talking to other organizations as well, and they're interested in.
There's always the
Helping
GAA and
put this
other big
together.
organizations, and the Knights of Kiwanis, and
The Kiwanis, yep.
so.
And this town has been, like I've felt in the 12 years I've been here, has been amazing in terms of the way people come together and cooperate.
Agreed.
You know, and that's just one of the special things about this town, in my opinion. And you know, we've all been able to accomplish a lot in town, you know, on a conservative, you know, budget, right? But it's because of all the people who work together, and it's because everybody has a shared vision for what they want in this town, and that's very important.
So listen, I talked to Carol about really presenting tonight because I wanted the board to hear kind of currently where we're at. Again, I know we had a meeting with FinCon a couple weeks ago, and you know, this is kind of the newest and best. But listen, are there anybody else has a question? We're going to allow another 5 minutes, okay, and then we're going to move on. Go ahead, Gary.
I'll use all of that. Thank you. You've led us through a much better presentation than anything I've heard.
Thank you.
And I do believe that the town needs this. But I hear this, you know, I've heard this here at this board. I'm on the CPC, so I'm involved with it somewhat there. I might well be on finance. I don't get a vote there, but I make all their meetings.
You go to meetings, yeah.
And then I'm also a member of the Park and Rec at this point, a short-term member, but, you know, I've been involved. And I do, you know, I can't say enough about what they do. And you've presented it well. Thank you for that.
It's amazing.
And it is a board that I don't see, you know, I stepped up forward and they appointed me because they were having a problem with quorums. And I mean, a lot of them are ready to give things up. But I'm not sold at this point. I mean, I wish this presentation had been much earlier. So at this point, I need to go to some of them other meetings to be sold. You know, as Jim said, I wasn't able to, because the Board of Selectmen was meeting the same time as Park and Rec. So, you know, I would like to know more about that. As far as the fees go, I'd like to ask a question, if I may, Mr. Chair, of Mike, and that is that we're hearing different things. We're hearing fees, we're hearing possible, perhaps PTA could do something, but how does that work budget-wise? I mean, would we need another revolving account or something for Park and Rec to put in there to somewhat go towards a director if there were fees and things of this?
No, they would handle it just like other departments that charge fees, like the building department, that we...
So that would be part of the manager's job, would have to figure what got brought in?
Yeah, they'd make weekly deposits, and as long as the fees are legitimately approved by the governing board that, you know, has the authority to create them, and then, you know, on a weekly basis, they do their turn-ins to the treasurer's office, and the fees get deposited into the general fund.
So with that, if this moves forward, you know, it gets better planning, do we need to have the okay of Park and Rec to hire this person if it looks like perhaps there is going to be enough income for the Park and Rec to do this? And then there's one other question I want to get out there, but I better write it down. So go ahead.
Well, that's open to interpretation. I do have a legal opinion that states that the Board of Selectmen are the hiring authority. I suppose you could delegate that authority to the commission. They've been doing it all along.
Well, as a personnel director, aren't you sort of do that for the...
I'm sorry, what?
As the personnel director, does the hiring sort of fall?
Well, I assist each department to make sure they follow
We've done
best
points.
practices in hiring,
We've done a point system, so each applicant gets 5 points for, we have, you know, you do the job description, 9 points, and you weight each applicant.
So there's-
that way, if there's anybody who says, I don't know why I didn't get picked, you can say, well, this is the system we went through, and we interpret, and you take maybe the two that you have at the top of the point system and go
So-
through some other.
But my one last question, was it Aaron or?
Yes, Aaron.
Okay, thank you. You may, because you evidently have searched out who does this in surrounding towns a little bit in that. Any discussion of a possible shared position? I mean, we do that sometime, and that comes up. You talk about going to the state for help, and that is one of the things that, we had the lieutenant governor out here recently, and one of the things they keep pushing us with lots of their plans are anything that you can do regional, it helps to get funding. So, and I mean, if this isn't perhaps quite large enough, a little large for our budget, maybe we should be looking towards a shared position with a surrounding town.
Like maybe Raleigh?
That would be great, Jim. I don't know why you're bringing that up, but
We have a lot of other shared, we have a lot of other
I'm
shared
not sure where you're
assets.
going with that, but.
Oh, because then we get
So, I mean,
excise tax on boats.
I would just put that out there. I mean, at this point, you've done a great presentation, but I tend to have to agree where the finance is, and perhaps they'll come on board, I don't know, but, it's, the chair's not probably gonna like this, but to me, it's still a little late in the game for this year. So I'd just like to throw that out. And also, I mean, at that meeting that we had, the joint meeting, one of the things I threw out there was I'd like to see it larger than just what you're talking for a rec center. I think the whole town. I was happy to hear Jim mentioning more about, perhaps sailing things down at the pond or something of that sort, that families could take better. Families could take better adventure of. Because I'm a little held back to just say that it's going to be grade this through that at the school. I think we're being a little too restrictive.
Yeah, no,
And if we're going down this avenue,
I've always thought,
think it out. I think it needs more.
If we conveyed that to you, or if I conveyed that to you, I apologize. The whole purpose of this is to say that the rec center is one small piece, right? So Park and Rec already has programs that it runs. It's
Yes,
got new
that I
programs
saw.
that it's coming online, right? And to that point, the senior center has programs that Colleen might want some support with. They might want to set up, things down, specific programs down at the park.
Right.
So it really, the person's time is, the whole purpose of the genesis of this is not about the teen center. It's about managing the town's work and looking at possibly expanding some of the things to get that quality of life that people in town of all sectors, have said that they really want to have. So I just want to make sure, I'm glad you brought that up, because I wouldn't want you to leave thinking that
there was
that's
also an article in
our
last week's
agenda here.
paper about Raleigh and their taxes have gone through the roof, suppose, because they have the two new public service buildings. And then we might be able to find a town local that can, instead of getting 65, we can get maybe 80 or 85 and get one or two positions that they would shared services. That would have, there might be some towns local, because I know Andover, North Andover are all squared away. But like I said, I'm not sure. I know Newburyport's all squared away. I'm not sure about Raleigh and maybe Boxford
or Groveland,
or West
Boxford.
Boxford.
Yeah.
So
Certainly
they might
look
have
into
a.
But you've got a lot of work that this person still
Oh,
has
right,
to
this
do.
person would have to be
That's
one
the
out,
problem.
1.5 or 2 people, right?
Right, I think there's enough, I think our experience tells us that there's enough for one person.
Yeah.
If you're just gonna do Georgetown and do, like you're saying, Gary, really look at all of the sectors and all of the sites
Right.
that are in, control of Park and Rec right now and that could be expanded. Again, if it was a bigger project and there was more money and more, the ability to switch, we certainly didn't talk about that, but we certainly.
If it became something that went for 6 or 7 years and they separated or something, allowed 2 towns to get ahead of the game, it's not terrible.
Yeah, no.
It's the right town.
I think we've, at this point, only got one department doing that in town. But,
I mean, yeah, I know.
it certainly needs, it's just some of the things that we need to consider
Yeah.
to make
Yeah,
our budget
Yeah.
easier.
Yeah, just to remember, you're talking about 25,000 new money, right? You're not talking about 65,000. That's the beauty of why we came together and collaborated. Was it was a redirection, and that is the concern that when part of what we want to talk more about with Park and Rec, particularly the two members that are concerned, is help us build the. Take that money and build the budget. What would you do with $27,000, right?
I'd say you got 3 members that are concerned.
Oh, well, sorry, Gary. I'll count you.
And let's hopefully someone will hear this on TV and we'll get that number down a little bit. And at least for the first year. I think the first kickoff year is going to be just the
Well, one
toughest.
last thing I wanted to say is one of the things, and I'm sure you hear it, with the fee schedule, you know,
Yeah.
Joe, you sort of presented as giving something back to the town, but if I'm sitting out there, I'm saying, what am I getting? I'm gonna have to now start paying to use it. What am I getting? So I'm gonna also be thinking that way, you know, that's,
You'd have to be judicious as to what you
Yeah, so-
did, but I think we're talking about, if these are facilities that other people are using, that are outside of the community,
agreed.
There's a,
Well, Gary, it depends on also who you're talking about. If I'm a parent and my wife is working and they're charging $200 for the rec center, and I'm sick of my daughter going to the Dunkin' Donuts after school every day and throwing whatever in her stomach, I have no problem spending $200 on my daughter going there as opposed to hanging out at Dunkin' Donuts. That's what you get.
That's your point. I made my point.
No, I've heard people say this Thursday with the school with these young kids walking around town is not good.
No, of course it's not.
It's not good. It's stupid. I mean, these aren't, these are 13, 14-year-old girls hanging out at sub shops for 3 hours. That's kind of because the library won't open for Thursdays. That's really.
well, it's also, the nice thing is, it's a central location, and there's no rent charged. I mean, it's basically, the school has the space, right? So it's a pretty efficient, operation in terms of, the school is open. It's not like we're opening it for a specific purpose. I mean, it's pretty much open. We maintain it. That would all continue to be in-kind stuff that we would do, so.
Anybody else?
I do.
Doug had one thing.
How much was the CPC grant for?
27,000 for the
Oh, you
basketball
mean for
court.
the basketball courts, yeah. Oh,
All right. I just didn't hear that.
yeah.
The way I look at fees is just another way to spell tax.
Yeah.
And I also have concerns about people having to pay to use a public facility. I'm all set with, like, what we used to do with the parking passes, which paid for maintenance and a lifeguard. I mean, yeah, that's fine. But
That's what we're talking about.
to have somebody say, well, I gotta pay a fee to play pickleball, I gotta pay a fee to play on it, use the tennis court. This is in a public facility. So now all of a sudden, it's not a public facility.
It's the same way with kids' sports, though, too. I mean,
Well, I understand that.
it's not good but it's the way it's
No,
being.
I understand that, but I have an objection to that.
Oh, yeah, no,
Parking is one thing, but being able to utilize a public facility and be able to be with your peers, what about the families that can't afford $200?
Yeah.
There's all of that. Now, I was involved in the 80s while you guys were still in high school. I was involved with the teen center.
Yeah, you told me that there wasn't, I didn't know that.
That we had for a while, and Rick Gardello, I was surprised he's still around.
No, he deserves a lot of
But he
credit.
was,
He's kept
he
it
was, he
going.
was kind of the guy in charge there. And all the kids loved him because he's like the Incredible Hulk. He may be a lot smaller now, but.
Not really.
No.
No, not really.
But anyhow, so that went its course, but it was more directed as, okay, who's going to be there? Who's going to wind up coming? And it wound up being a specific age group. So I don't know whether that would also be the case at a youth rec community center or whatever. It may, depending on what happens there.
Yeah.
But it's also important to identify that and then say, okay, we got to do some things for these kids that aren't coming, whether it be the,
Yeah.
the 17.
So you have to find out why don't they utilize.
Right, and maybe it's.
So anyhow, you have a budget of $65,000
Yeah.
right now.
68, right.
Yeah.
So,
Last year.
Last,
Well, last
point,
year.
good point, Gary.
So you have a budget of 65,000, you're looking at, with the numbers being thrown out, 55 to 65 as a salary, plus whatever, what would benefits cost, Mike?
Depends.
It depends. Between 12 and, just for health insurance, somewhere between, 12 and 24.
But it might be somebody who doesn't take the health insurance. but you have to
I mean,
plan
well,
on
I
it.
know, but
That's
see,
it.
what I'm seeing is there's a lot of maybes and a lot of ifs and a lot of, I'd like to see maybe even a year of collecting parking fees or whatever, so you have an idea of what is gonna come in. And you have money from CPC to build the basketball court, bocce, and whatever else that's going to do.
Yeah.
Which is able to be
Shuffle.
utilized by folks at the senior center too. Or I should say the senior community center. Which is able to be utilized by them, which is good.
Yeah.
And I don't think there'd be anybody that would say, no, this would not be a good idea for the community. I just think that where we find ourselves for this year in trying to get back our bond rating so it goes up instead of down. And we're already have too much debt anyhow. So it seems that let's just use a round figure, a startup cost would be about $100,000. Right? Just round figures. Give or take 10 or 15,000. There may be, no, I don't want to go down that road, but there may be some other revenues that we're hoping will happen that will wind up going through the general fund that we can count on that would help with something like that. At that last meeting, I wasn't in favor of hiring me too. I wasn't in favor of hiring a full-time director this year. I thought that having money to do a court, and whatever else would be in there for that, is showing the community that we are working towards a final goal of this is what it might look like in 5 years. And that's how Jim looks at all the parks, and this is what it will look like at the end. Then
Are you
we have
talking
all,
about the teen center, Doug?
well,
Or are you talking about?
well, no, I mean, when I say, you say a teen center, part of that, yeah, it's utilizing the upper floor of Pearlie. Right? And there'll be an athletic court utilized for
the
shuffleboard or bocce or whatever else, right? That the community can use. This is showing the community that we're going the right direction. But we have to be, it's difficult because the state told us we had to make sure and do the Compensation Equality Act. And so we've had some big increases in salaries already. And they weren't, it wasn't easy to do that, but when the state tells you, hey, you gotta do this, or this is gonna happen, well, you gotta do it. So we did. And I just think that we should be looking a year out for this whole director position. I mean, maybe you can find somebody, maybe there's current employees, I mean, they already volunteer, right, at the school? They do athletics? Or do they get paid for that?
Who do you mean, the
Well, just-
coaches?
People that are at the school that might do some coaching, they get fees for that?
They get paid.
They
Yeah,
get paid for
they
that?
get paid for that.
Well, I don't know, maybe there's a smaller way to get into it for the first year, and then we have all of till next fiscal year to finally come up with a concrete plan, because we'll have more concrete numbers. Right now, we have, well, maybe we'll get this much from parking, or if we get money from here, or the PTA might have money, or, you know, or whatever, the different organizations. Well, they may, but has anybody committed to those funds? No. Well, you'd say, well, yeah, we would do that, but there's been no formal commitment to that. It's almost like a pledge, you know, here's what we're going to do. And if there were more concrete numbers and you knew where that money was coming from, then it's a lot easier to say, yeah, let's push this thing forward, other than saying, let's hire another employee and come up with a, you know, X amount of dollars. I don't know. I mean, I'm in favor of it, believe me, I'm all in favor of it. And the presentation was great. It's what we really wanted to see.
Thank you.
But,
Yeah, we've been working on it, so. But I want to make sure you get the updated one.
yeah,
and
I just
we'll
think we
send that
need
out
more
to you.
concrete foundation to
Possible
it.
to break those hours down even more too?
What specifically are you looking for when you say the hours?
Well, what you see is going perhaps towards, how many hours you see is going towards
I don't know.
Your
I was
teen
thinking
center.
about, like how, like breaking it down in terms of like what percentage.
You're sort of trying to
they-
combine open up a teen center and combine it with Park and Rec, although I do think the fit is there. But I'm saying, do you perhaps have a breakdown of where you see the hours being spent? 'Cause
I don't think we discussed that.
No, I mean,
I had vision of that. Man, I forgot who I discussed that with. I don't know if it was you, Carol, or Mike. I did have a vision of that. Like I said, I kind of brought it up where it is more of a seasonal thing. Like Jim said, I think more time is going to be spent during the spring and summer.
It really depends.
So this is
winter.
an at-will employee, right? So we're not talking that we're going to enter into a 3-year agreement with
Well, that's
somebody
up to whoever
to get
hires
here,
them,
right?
but-
Well, I think all the conversation that we're having is like, what happens after year one, right? Which, you know, let's give it a shot. If we can find the 25,000 for this year, and we have a comprehensive plan here, we'll see how it plays out. If things don't go well and we say, you know what, we're gonna be in the hole, we're gonna have to ask, you know, we're gonna have to ask for more money, we didn't get X amount of money, well, then we come and we revisit it for year 2, right? But it's an at-will employee. You may even be able to hire someone as a contractor for the first year, right? Without benefits, and say, hey, if things go well, if we can generate revenue, if you can hit the target numbers, then we'll consider a full-time position. I just think if we don't start somewhere, we won't ever get off the ground, right? Because we're always going to be worried about what's going to happen in year 2, what's going to happen in year 3. I'm still worried about year 1, but I think if we work with FinCom and we say, hey, we got it down to 25 now, is there any, you know, is there anywhere in the budget that we have to cut back, or we see potential revenue coming in? But
I have one other question before I
What do you
figure-
use the $65,000 for?
we have salary of 2 people. We have water, $10,000 we spend on water. The utilities, fertilizer.
So how are you getting, how do you hire a director at $65,000, and then you still have all those other expenses?
Yeah.
The total.
Yeah, I mean, they'd be scaling back the first year, no doubt. We'd be bare bones.
So we defer maintenance? We have a habit of deferring maintenance in this town.
We haven't deferred it in the last couple of years. We've done pretty good, but it
I wasn't just pointing
No,
at
no,
the
no,
parking lot.
we were talking, we couldn't defer the playground area because that'd be a safety issue, but
Right.
we wouldn't do what we had. If we do major things, like we put a new circuit box into the bandstand, we probably wouldn't take on any big, you know, it's $5,000 or $6,000 projects. We probably wouldn't put a roof on at some, you know, for a year or 2.
Jim, we were also talking about, do we need the 2 employees if we have a director? Could that director actually?
No, we actually only have we only thought we're having one of, the second employee's leaving, and we're looking at, like, cleaning the bathrooms. I talked to Mike about maybe hiring a cleaning service that works here to
Works here, yeah.
see, could they go in every evening? What would their cost be compared to we're paying her 4 hours a day to go in and open the park. And so the new guy would open the park, but he wouldn't clean the bathrooms, would have a service go in at night and clean them. Doing that type of trade-off.
Aren't the bathrooms cleaned periodically throughout the day?
Just things like toilet paper, depending on what goes on there. Usually no. I mean, usually they get a full clean at night and they're open for the morning. But if something crazy goes on there, yeah, the guy who's there has to go in and, take care of it. But hopefully.
But if you had
that-
parking fees or you charge people to use the park from outside.
But that question on the
you can
parking
fund that
fees too,
position.
we were given authorization, the Park and Rec was given authorization to create bylaws for the rules at the beach. Is that bylaw something we could do, or would have to be a town-approved bylaw?
No, the commission can do it.
Okay. Because I was just saying, we could probably try to do that and have that in place for next year or this year, whatever.
I have to also remind the board, we're focusing in on a rec center. It seems like all the conversations on a rec center. I want to direct some attention to the actual Parks and Rec. I mean, they're sitting here telling us they need help. All right, it's not just the rec center and all the kids and whatever. Obviously, that's probably one of the major, points that we're trying to get off the ground. But again, we have the chairman here stating that they need some help as well, and that director will be helping, Jim and the crew, in terms of getting, certain functions done that they don't have time for or don't have the wherewithal to get done. So there is the Parks and Rec side to this.
That's
So
the
there's
main
people
side to it.
on your board that volunteer their time to do maintenance, correct?
Yes.
A lot.
So we could ultimately be at risk of not having that done.
Well, I mean, there was a time, yeah, most of us, Dave Showers just had a knee replaced. There was a time he was going to West Street 3 hours, 3 times at night, 2 in the morning, 4 in the morning, moving around sprinkler heads 30 years ago.
Well, that's
so
my
we're all
point.
past that point of waking up,
If we don't get someone in here for the town, we may not be able to enjoy the free services that we've been getting all these years from volunteers.
I think it's a combination thing. I think it's time. The town is 8,000 people now. It's just time that there's more services that could be handled over the years. Getting someone in there, so within 3 or 4 years, we'll have things like you can rent a boat, and like you talk about, he doesn't like to pay for services. There'll be a boat down there that you can probably rent if you want to go out on a rowboat. So you'll have additional services you'll pay for, but there'll be additional things you get benefit. Your kid wants to have sailing lessons. Yeah, you may have to spend $20, but he'll hire someone to give sailing lessons. There'll be a sailboat down there. And those are things, the services, like you said, you have to pay for, but they're additional to what we're doing now. If you want to do tennis lessons, there'll be someone, you might have to pay, so much a lesson, but we'll have someone down there using the tennis courts and the times that they're not being taken out. And that person will handle those type of things, bringing in money in certain facilities, above and beyond just general basketball games and other things.
I mean, I'm sorry,
I think it's time.
But Mike, I'll just use an example. When the override failed before I came, by 17 votes, there was a facilities director that the district had, and that ended up being on the chopping block. So it did get cut. So then, I have to deal with it. So what we basically did is we figured out ways that the principals could take responsibility for overseeing the custodial maintenance in their building. So I can tell you that didn't work. I think anybody who sees what Mike Anderson does, and he's an example of what we're talking about, when you have a paid professional whose job it is to make sure that these things get done, get planned for, have a vision, the work gets done. And that's the best example I can give you that you all can relate and understand. We do the best we can when we don't have somebody, but if it's possible, and again, you have to decide whether it's possible. At some point, hopefully it will be possible in the town if it's not this year. Because it's going to be even more necessary as time goes on. But as soon as Mike took over that position, stuff started to happen. And, without Mike, the schools don't function in many ways, right? So he's a central figure. But the point is, that's what happens when you try to have people who are part-time you know, or who are part-time, that's their part-time job. They've got other things that are competing for their time.
Yeah.
And so that's, I just would close with that example, that's an example of what you can potentially get the right person. And Mike started at, you know, less than $50,000
Yep.
when we first hired him, so.
Okay. Well, Aaron, Jim, Carol.
Thank you.
Marie,
Thank you for
good to
your
see
time. And
Thank you so
I'll
much
get
for
you the
coming in. We
proposal.
really appreciate it.
We'll get you the proposal.
All right, so under old business, we're going to start with the water light merger discussion. So Mike, I know you got the warrant, correct, on that?
Yes.
All right, so if you could kind of bring us up to speed on that, and then we can kind of take it from there.
Well, they already had their legal counsel draw up the warrant, the actual motion may be a little different, or maybe even a lot different, I think, is what they mentioned. But they've also produced the language for the legislative act too. So with, you know, pending final review by our attorneys, that should be good to go.
Okay. So Mike, what is, at this point, you know, we have the warrant, what is the process? I know really right now, we are at a point, and we'll open it up for discussion briefly, but we're at a point where we just have to vote to put this on the warrant, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So with that being said, I'd actually...
Well, you haven't voted to put anything on the warrant
Right,
yet.
I know.
Yeah.
But that's what we are here to do, correct? So with that being said, I'll open it up to any further discussion. You know, we had some members in our last meeting. We appreciated them coming in, and they gave us a lot of information. We had a lot of back and forth. I actually, you know, took that information and I thought it was valuable. I thought it was really productive. So I'm at a point where I can vote tonight, but you know, I'll open up the floor to any discussion, comments, questions that, you know, maybe Mike can answer as well. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I think I can go with fellow board members with putting it on the warrant. As far as supporting it, like the actual merger itself, I think I'd like to wait until we receive the independent study from them. But it sounded like the consensus was that we were open. So I mean, I'm good with that.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I would agree with Steve. I think the report's important to see, but I think last time we met, they answered a lot of questions that we had. I thought it was pretty clear. Made a lot more sense to me when we met with them last time. So I support, you know, moving forward with it. I don't have any issue with it.
Okay. Gary, Doug?
Well, certainly would like to see this report. And not being a light or water guy, and the people that we have as the water commissioners and the light commissioners and the light manager, they all make those two industries their full-time jobs also. Like, you know, Nick is at Littleton. And I think we need to let them do their jobs, and they know the intricacies of. We'll never be able to sit here and say, "Well, it's going to do this and it'll do that, and we can save that, we can save that." Well, you might not, but it's still the same. It's still the light department and the water department. They're just merged, you know. And so I would acquiesce to to their recommendations, but I certainly do want to see the report that was mentioned.
Okay. Gary, before you make a statement, Mike, when do they need to know what this board has elected to do as far as putting it on the warrant or not? I know, that if it was a no here, they wanted to do.
They've only got till March 11th.
So it is something. So we would have to vote it by next meeting, and it is my understanding that they will not have that report by March 11th.
Yeah, I think he did say it would be later
Right.
than that. I mean, you can put it on the warrant but yeah, they won't have the opportunity. If you don't say you're putting it on, then they only have until the 11th to get a petition.
Citizens petition. Okay.
But we could put it on, but not decide whether we support it or not, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can put it on and not support it.
Right.
Well, ultimately,
Did
it's
you
up
get a
to the
chance?
town.
Yes.
Yeah, but just as we do with all,
we have our
especially,
vote,
the finance, we do our vote
Yeah.
with it. Did you get a chance to ask the treasurer, the accountant, if there were any things we need to be concerned about from an accounting standpoint?
No, I did not have that
Okay.
conversation with her.
Okay. Because we may want to just to make sure that we're not, I don't know any examples.
I don't think so,
Yeah, okay,
because it's done in other communities.
okay.
Gary, statement, comments?
I think I've made my statement
Okay.
when they were here that, they're elected officials and I give them the support to move this forward. Ultimately, the town decides, and my mind's not 100% made up at this point either.
Okay.
I think I know which way I would go, but.
All right,
yeah,
well-
so moving it forward, I mean, I don't know, it's on the draft. I mean, typically, we would vote to take things off more than put them on, but I mean, if you feel that they need our support, I'm willing to do that tonight, that, give the support for them to move this forward, if that helps them in their
Well, I know.
quest.
Yeah, it was important to them. By the way, in my conversations with Nick when this all started, obviously the first thing is they wanted to get this on the warrant, right? But they were really interested in. It meant a lot to them to get the support of this board, and in a town meeting here that the Board of Selectmen supported this action as well. So to Gary's point, I think they would like to hear that. I would like to revisit my comments at the last meeting, and that was when this whole thing started. I had my doubts. Okay, maybe like everyone did, and then they had their presentations. Mr. Lawler made it very clear that it was a 6-0 vote, right? Between the two boards, to move forward with this, which didn't mean a lot, but it didn't mean everything, right? Publicly, I'll come out and say that the study that they did with our townspeople didn't mean a whole lot to me, because I don't think the public knew enough to really kind of give opinion, on that. I'll say it meant something, but it didn't mean a whole hell of a lot to me. So what my real point, though, is that I think we have to remember that they have gone through, and correct me if I'm wrong, 4 managers in 5 years?
Something like that.
So, is that right? I think that's the number we heard. And so as much as I appreciated them, throwing out the numbers and there's a projected savings, by doing this, for me, it comes down to operations. And I think that's what they voted on, is that we haven't been able to really get the right person in there over the course of 5 years, to not only lead the charge operationally, but I almost feel like those 5 years have been a waste when it comes to long-term planning to make our water improve and better. It's been probably the one topic that we hear year in and year out I know when Steve and I joined this board, we had asked the current manager at that point to give us some of their direction on how that was going to improve. Never got it. Then the next, guy came in. We asked the same thing. Never got it. And he was gone. Another 3 months later or whatever it was. So I'm looking for continuity here. I'm really looking for a strong management team to not only head operations, but to lay a foundation that supports both short and long-term growth. Both presentation but also implementation to make our water better. It frustrates me when I hear people saying that the water's orange this day, I have to do this, I have to do that. It's not fair. Whereas at least if we had a management team that was open to our public to say, yeah, we have a lot of issues. It's not going to get any better in a couple of years, but you know what? Maybe in 3 years, if we do this, this, and this, we'll see some improvements because this is what we're doing. We just haven't had that. And for me, that's what this is about. I think there would be continuity and some strong management in there. David Schofield, I have all the confidence in. He's done a great job with our light department, and yeah, there'll be a learning curve, right? Because I said it. I mean, electric and water don't go together, right? But at the same time, it comes down to management style. The preparation, to manage a team. He'll have some help, right? They were talking about an engineer coming in and helping, with some of the savings. So I'm gonna, again, I had my reservations, but I think I am in full support to at least put it on the warrant and give it to the people, to decide from there, just based on
Right,
their.
and they'll have small systems, water. Bruce Trumbull, who's right now acting as the kind of water department manager, and they'll still have his services after any merger to help with the transition and even beyond the transition. If there was some water knowledge needed that they didn't have or the commissioners didn't have.
Yep. Okay. So
The
listen,
support is
I think, to Gary's point, so when do we typically, I thought it was like a few weeks before that we go through all the items and we vote, if they have to do with us, to say that the selectmen voted unanimously to support this article. When do we typically do that?
Anytime after you close it, but at no later than we have to, no later than the end of March.
Okay.
Probably the March 25th meeting.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
we don't
March,
have to
you can
vote.
do it March 25th.
Okay.
But that's your
we'll-
drop dead date.
Oh, we'll get the independent report before then.
Well, but here's the thing. Don't forget, I don't want to step on the water. They have to know by March 11th.
Oh, it's going on, so if it goes on, you don't have to vote for it to go on, right?
Well, don't. I think
It's on the
draft right now. It's on the draft, but don't we have to vote to kind of keep it there?
You should, in order for them not to have to go out and do a petition warrant article, you should vote tonight to say it's going on.
Okay. Yeah.
You're not saying you're supporting it.
Gotcha, okay, yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Good.
All right. So if there is no other discussion, can I have a motion?
Just one.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
There's another article, Mike, to do with the water department, well, there's a couple. But this is the one for the water storage tank and bonding now. I mean, wasn't there something already on there, or is this doing the streets now?
No, it's kind of a do-over.
Okay.
Because.
One of those, okay.
Yeah, they didn't spend all their money. As a matter of fact, they only spent a very small portion, and so the bond they bonded.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't bond everything they needed at the time.
Okay.
So that's why.
So this is probably like the street work, because that's what I mean, the tower's up. But I don't think we've done any of the street work that's on here, so it's.
Yeah, there's other projects that
But why?
they thought they were going to be able to use, but we paid for it. We didn't pay for it with a a full bond. We paid for it with short-term financing. So this is,
On the anticipation notes?
yes. So now they've got to redo the bond
Okay,
for the long term.
thank you.
All right, so can I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the Light Department, Water Department merger, place it on the warrant. It's currently known as ATM 19-15. Is that what we need?
Mike, is that okay?
I did get the,
You said it may change, I don't know that we want to say it's presented, because,
Well, that number
I
that
didn't
he
say it.
gave,
yeah, that's what I mean, you just,
yeah, that's okay, because, right?
that number doesn't change, that you.
Yeah, that one doesn't change. It's only the,
That's a
Not
tracking.
approving the merger.
this
No, we're
article,
approving the
his
warrant.
motion was to keep it on the warrant, basically.
yeah, 19, oh,
I thought I heard
Yeah, it
approve
was
the merger.
ATM 19-15.
Well, that's what the
That's
article
what I
is.
have.
okay.
Maybe I didn't.
Approve the article, go on the warrant.
Yes.
It should be the motion, not approve the merger.
Well, I think he was just describing the article. That's what the article is about.
Okay.
All right, well, there was that discussion.
Yeah, I think
I'll second it. I don't know if I got a second or not, but I'll second.
1915 is good.
Okay. I didn't read it with my glasses on, so.
So in the motion, Steve is saying, go ahead. I don't have to.
So to me, it just sounded like we said that we'll approve the merger and place it on the warrant.
No.
That's what I thought I
That's what I
heard.
heard.
That's what Kip heard as well.
It should, well, I thought I said that to approve, and I just read the title. Approve the Light Department, Water Department merger warrant article, ATM 19-15.
To put it on the warrant, I thought I heard you. Yeah.
Put it on the
No,
warrant.
that's, that, did you say that?
I thought I
Yeah,
heard
well,
him
I
say
thought
that.
that's what I said.
All right, well, to be on the safe
Vote it
side.
down and-
Yeah, I was gonna say, on the safe side, let's vote.
Light water.
Well, I don't know if I can say that. Let's make sure that, it is.
Well, they
it
gotta
is
read back
presented
what they.
correctly.
Well,
I was
what's,
gonna say, can you read that back?
I had moved to approve the Light Water Department merger article, though, 19-15.
Okay, as long as that's, I know what Steve is saying, right? Because, it could be.
He didn't say, yeah, he was saying to approve the article,
Perfect.
so that's what I
right,
had.
that's what I said, ATM, yeah.
He said
placement,
ATM-19-15.
Awesome.
Replacement. Okay, fantastic. So we have a motion, Gary seconded, okay? Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of it going on the article?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
All right, fantastic. All right, next on the agenda, Tilson Small Cell Application Discussion. Mike, I'm gonna have you, once again, kick this off, because I know you've had discussions with everybody on this.
Yeah, in your packet is some information I got from a meeting I attended at the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission last week. And I also attended a meeting with Dave Schofield when he met with the Hudson Light Department and the Mansfield Light Department. And they are working on technical and aesthetic regulations. So all those three light departments can promulgate these regulations to, as I said, to control, have technical and aesthetic control over the rights of way. It's, even though it's our right of way, they need to, because most of their equipment is in our right of way, so they have to be sure that any other items that go in the right of way meet with their technical specifications. And they're supposed to be working with, and they are, because I was the only non-planner there as well. The other towns had their planning offices represented. John knew of the meeting, but had a conflict, so that's the other reason why I attended, and to educate myself on what's involved. So this group of 3 light departments have hired a high-end consultant. They're called CTC. I don't know what the acronym stands for, but they're an international consulting firm that is very knowledgeable on the 4G and 5G. 5G is yet to come. And that consultant is working with those 3 light departments to develop these technical and aesthetic regulations. The problem is we're the only game in town that has an official application in front of them. I learned this also when I went to Merrimack Valley Planning Commission. There were probably 6 or 7, 6 other towns and cities. Amesbury was there. Mayor from Newburyport was there with their chiefs of staff, and it's a mayors and managers meeting, and the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission has, and we're the only one in the Merrimack Valley that has this official application in front of them, and the regulations. Well, we've had it in front of us since November, October. The law actually just went into effect January 14th. Actually, it's the FCC regulations. And the law says that if you promulgate these technical and aesthetic regulations by April 1st and publish them by April 15th, your regulations can be retroactive. Dave's group is not going to have anything ready by April 1st, so we're kind of on our own. I've met with Tilson LLC. We had a meeting last week. John Cashel attended, and John Eichman attended because they're all a bunch of lawyers over there at Tilson, so I didn't want to walk into a meeting without a lawyer in my back pocket. But I did ask them, would they pull their application because of the timing involved, and he wasn't very open to that at this point in time. Doesn't mean he might not, pull his application before we have to have the public hearing. The public hearing for that application has to be held by March 22nd. That's the original 150-day limit that we were under. Now it's so accelerated. They have a 10-day, a 30-day, and a 90-day shot clock, depending upon what they're actually applying for. So we're going to meet one more time with Tilson, and this time I'm hoping because it was school vacation week. Dave was off on vacation and he couldn't attend the meeting. But we did agree, well, first of all, I said to them, hey, you guys haven't responded to the selectmen with their questions that they had the first time.
Right.
And they said, what do you mean? We thought we answered all the questions. No, you didn't. Number one, they told you to find another location. Oh, well, we've looked at that and there's no other location. And I said, and, you know, we were concerned with the aesthetics. I mean, that was a pretty ugly pole, and you're going to put it right in our downtown.
Yeah.
And I had learned through these other meetings that there are a lot of ways you can approach this. You can have metal poles with that cabinet in the base of the pole, run the wires up the middle of the hollow metal pole, and just put a nondescript antenna on top of it. And the problem is you can't treat one carrier different from another one. So if we're going to develop these types of aesthetic regulations, our light department has to follow them too, because they're in our right of way. You can't discriminate. You can't say you need a $50,000 pole and you can use a wooden pole for $2,000. So we are going to meet with Tilson one more time before the 22nd. Actually, the 22nd's Friday. I'm proposing that we have the hearing on the 18th. It's a Monday. Unless we meet with Tilson before the 11th, and we could have a public hearing on the 11th at our regular meeting.
This thing that you're working on, this is the bridge policy, is that what?
No, there is no, the law makes it clear there's no, towns and cities do not have the right for a moratorium.
Okay. Did we communicate that to Rob Hoover?
Yeah,
Yes,
planning.
We did, okay.
A long conversation.
Okay,
with
Is
him.
that the conversation today that you had with him? Because I know Rob had reached out.
Was it today?
Yeah.
Oh, today's
Yeah, okay.
Monday, yeah, it was
Because
today.
the last correspondence was, I think, he was expecting that the light department, because he's the one that we basically said should lead this.
Yeah.
This effort. So
I
he's
had
expecting
this-
a bridge policy, and then he said that the electric department was working on something else, which wasn't
Right.
the same thing.
I had this conversation I'm having with you tonight, this morning with Rob.
Okay, good.
And he was he understood everything, and he
Right.
was fine with all the information he now has.
Okay.
But
Because he's
the-
more the expert, I think, on
Well,
sir.
yeah, they need to be involved. The planning board needs to be involved to advise this board as far as, and the light department as far as acceptable
So that was,
aesthetics.
if I may, I thought that was, that we voted to send this to the planning board
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, but there was
Okay.
some confusion, because like Rob was under the impression that, you know, the town could develop a moratorium like we did with the marijuana, but the FCC regulation specifically prohibits moratorium. The other interesting issue was when this law went into effect January 14th, on January 15th, a whole slew of states and cities filed lawsuits. They couldn't file the lawsuits till the law went into effect. And there's a a main litigation. I think there's 16 California cities. It's called San Jose, City of San Jose versus the FCC. And it was filed in our president's favorite Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. So they're trying to get a stay of the regulations, and they have some other issues as well with the regulations. They were petition asked the FCC to reconsider the recurring fee structure, which I think you heard about.
Yeah.
It's just $270 a year. Reconsider the fee structure, the definition of effective prohibition, undergrounding, making them put everything underground. Right now, that's prohibited. Minimum spacing issues, and the presumptively reasonable time period for deployment of an application. So that was filed January 15th. And they have a number of 15 days after the publication of notice in the Federal Register, and then replies will be due 10 days after that time for filing opposition. So, and I've talked to John Eichman about this, and he's not opposed, because he doesn't think they will sue us if we deny them.
Did, in your conversation, being the fact that the planning board is involved, did Chairman Hoover have any other concerns or even suggestions that they would like to implement, as we kind of move along this process?
No, he and, well, John needs to get more involved with the light departments, the light department group. They have their own consultant, but they also have a specialist from PK Law that's legally advising the town of Hudson. And he's just been with PK Law for about 9 months. Prior to that, all he did was electric and water utility law. So he's
Yeah.
they have a good team assembled. It's just the timing is not beneficial to us at this point in time.
All right, well, listen, I'm sorry, Doug, did you have a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What I don't understand, Mike, if the law just became a law in the last month, how are they still able to have that 150-day window that puts us in March?
Well, their application came in before the law went into effect. So
So there was no law.
there were regulations.
Right.
But they hadn't gone into effect yet. You're right, and that's why I told Tilson, Tim, I said, I don't get a vote, and I'm, I can't speak for the board, but if you come in and try to bully us through, you're gonna not like the answer you get from the board. So
if I might, I just think we should use our own utility poles and put the doggone antenna on the top, and we already hang these ugly transformers off of them, you know?
Well, let's be careful what we say in a public meeting.
No, I am. That's just what I think.
Well, it's the,
Go ahead, Gary.
yeah, I think the thing that we need to know best, and I think Mike's explained it from KP, is it sounds like, if, I'll say it as, if we don't do the things right, they could end up with the license by us default. So
Well, that's the good thing, Gary. The law, like if you were going to the planning board and they blew the deadline, right? You know, a 30-day deadline, then
Yeah.
whatever you ask for is automatically granted. The FCC regulation doesn't say that. So it doesn't say, well, it says you have to basically go to court.
Well, what does it cost us to have the public hearing, and can we put, does that go back on them?
No, because we don't have any regulations charging fees for the application, which we could eventually do.
Well, we probably need to definitely think of that, but I mean, then what, I mean, if we have a public hearing, we have to advertise.
No, we just posted on an agenda.
No.
We didn't advertise this public hearing. Oh, we did?
Yeah, it was,
We had to do,
yeah, it
what,
was,
2 weeks?
there was a,
Okay.
2 weeks?
I
10 days.
stand corrected then. So, yeah, well,
but is that taken in, by this, you mean the earlier license that we did? That was the public hearing that we did?
Yeah.
Now, isn't that taken in, and doesn't the applicant
I
pay that?
charge the
But
applicant.
we don't have an application form of that type right now for this tower.
that's right.
So we need to, as a town, work on that.
That's part of the technical and aesthetic
Yeah.
regulations.
Okay. But I mean, you know, to me, just, I know you can say that FCC doesn't say that, but I just assume have the public hearing and say no. I mean, I'm going just by my memory of what came before us. You know, I didn't go back and dig on this thing, but, you know, they were proposing a 4G tower, but yet they were going to 5G law, and nothing seemed correct on it. And I would have no problem saying, no, you didn't answer us, you didn't give us enough information, deny it. And then if they want to come back, they certainly, if there's no law, I mean, I know like some of the things in other boards, if you deny it, they can't come back for a certain time, but it doesn't sound like there's anything of that sort there either.
No, and
So we could
John
deny-
Eichman is definitely recommending that we hold the public hearing
Okay. Well, I would,
within the time period.
I would go on that, and
Yeah.
I'm just making a statement with what I've seen in front of me at this time, that's where I would be.
Yeah.
I know I don't need to make that till
I think we all concur in that.
after the hearing, but
Absolutely.
we need all the information in front of us.
All right, do you need anything from us tonight, Mike, on that?
Not at this point, I
Okay.
just want to bring you up to date. and,
All right, well, thank you.
Can I just ask one question, Mike?
Oh, yeah.
So didn't the applicant or the application specifically say, like you were inferring, that it was for 4G equipment? But yet the FCC guideline specifically is outlining its 5G infrastructure.
According to everybody and matter of fact, according to Lindsay DeRoche, director of the telecommunications and cable, 5G doesn't even exist yet.
Not really, no.
It won't be at the earliest next year at this time, but not till at least 2020. But the FCC, they just call it, you know, it's a small cell order. They're not really differentiating, as far as I could say, between 4G and 5G. It's all small cell.
Right. And the other side of that too is that, you know, they didn't, at least I didn't see it, give any background information in terms of any types of health risks associated with this different technology. And that's part of the FCC order as well.
Yeah, And I mean, that's one of the technical aspects that the light departments were concerned about, because they're putting their guys up on the pole next to these radio frequencies, and they don't know what they're going to do to it. Or the pole could be next to a building, second floor window where somebody's in an office, or it could be somebody's home, a residence.
Yeah.
And that RF is going to be bombarding the occupants of that building, because it does go through, as much as they say it needs direct line of sight, it's pretty good at going through buildings in short range. Now, that all being said, I mean, this is the wave of the future, and it's going to happen.
Right.
There's no stopping it.
We just need to figure out what we want.
Yeah.
When you say it's the wave of the future, it's what that industry is telling us is the wave of the future. They're telling us that we need this. Basically, it's not.
We do.
No, but they're telling. I mean, it's not the way.
With the amount of activity, they call the Internet of Everything, right? Or
Internet of Things.
Right?
Yeah, IoT.
I mean, everything is going to be demanding space and allocation on the network.
That's
So
a
they
good
have to
way.
have something that speeds that up.
Yep.
And it's kind of like what they do with fiber optics when fiber was and then they could split out your different colors on the different strands, could be all different data.
Steve, I just got one of these. I want to make sure it works.
Oh, we all saw this.
Chip, you all set? Yes. All right, guys, we gotta move on. So, Mike, just keep us posted on.
I have one more question on it, Joe.
Everything.
Might be important.
All right, very, very quickly, because we're gonna move on.
We probably won't be prepared to do anything for this upcoming warrant, then it sounds like. Because, I mean, usually these things end up going on a warrant.
It's not required for warrant. It can be a selectman's
Okay, thank you.
regulation.
All right, moving on. So we're gonna go skip down to limiting the marijuana retail outlets bylaw. So we had a conversation at the last meeting that we had to cut a little short just because we were running out of time, just like we are now. So this is more of picking up on that. We had talked a little bit about limiting again, another retail outlet in town. We have HP already, so this is more just retail oriented. We talked about some laws, around that, what it would take on the bylaw side. So with that being said, I know Steve has some information that he'd like to share.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate it, Mr. Chair. Can I project this on the screen, Janet?
You just need the wire.
Yeah. I don't have HDMI or whatever they use for
Converter. Adapters, though, yeah.
That's fine. This is a good segue into this.
Do you have one?
I don't even know what this is. Is it this here?
Only one.
Have you seen this one?
Maybe not.
There you go, HDMI, don't you on the other side?
Yeah, right there. I do. There you go. Bit of 4 or something. Is that what it is? Here we go. Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, this is a good segue. We go from the government producing the laws before the technology to the state allowing the businesses before we write the laws. So this is actually that was supposed to be a joke, guys.
I smile.
Chicken for the egg.
Hold on a second. Let me get this
Don't
done.
quit your day job.
I will. Let me get it just all right. So basically, what we had, as Joe had mentioned, we talked about this. We had some spirited discussion, and I think there was some confusion, about what's in the law, what isn't in the law. So I spoke to KP Law to get the facts down so we can
throw it out to everybody and make a decision if we want to proceed or not with putting this on the warrant. So basically, what I wanted to talk about tonight was just that, what's the proposal? Why do I think it's a good idea to support it? And what the procedures are. These two items here, I had just asked questions to the attorneys, so it's just information only. There isn't any call to action or any proposal for those. I just wanted you guys to be aware of that. So if we go into the retail establishments proposal, so what I'm proposing here is that we pass a bylaw that's limiting the number of marijuana retailers to 10% of the number of liquor license that are issued pursuant to General Law, Chapter 138, Section 15 in the town. So there was some confusion about, does that include, restaurants and not? It only includes package stores and places that we authorize the sale of beverages to not be drunk on premises. So that would include Crosby. So today, we have 3 active licenses, one for Johnny's Place, one for Georgetown Liquors, and one's for Crosby's. We do have the authority to grant up to 7 pursuant to Section 15. So that's the reason why I put the 10% instead of 20, because if we had 20%, we would be up, to 1.4, so that would allow 2 retail establishments right in town. So, as I mentioned here, the proposal will limit the retail sales of marijuana to 1 establishment in Georgetown, which, as we all know, there already is one in town. Hasn't opened yet. Haven't seen what the impact is going to be to the town, but we do have one, and I'm proposing that we stick with that. So, per KP law, the threshold does not apply to non-retail establishments, so any question about is this going to impact the growers, cultivators, all that, it does not. It only talks about the retail establishments. You guys have any questions on that?
No, I mean, I was just going over, a lot of what in the minutes reflect, so.
Okay.
Yeah, this is coming back and.
Yeah, I just want to confirm that
last week
we
was
had.
similar.
Yep,
Last
exactly.
meeting.
Okay, and then, the question, why limit it, right? And again, these are just opinions that I have. I think we need to limit the town's risk. The industry is still in an infancy stage. I actually asked KP Law if other towns have done that, have done the 20% or the 10% limitations, and I just quoted the response that I got for KP Law saying that many towns have limited the number of establishments. The primary reason was to control the rollout and the growth of the establishments, because it's a new industry, and there's still uncertain impacts on the community. I think the other reason why I think that we should go this route is our residents had voiced their desire for smart growth in the strategic plan. So, I think we need to work a little bit harder to get other types of businesses in town, as opposed to saturating it, with one type. Buffer zone requirements. Again, I think we know that, we have certain bylaws that say that you can't be within 300 feet if it's a sporting facility that houses kids or schools or any type of facility that children would congregate in. So that's another reason. Retain the small town feel and the character of a bedroom community, which is what we are, whether we all agree it or not. We're a bedroom community. And then just obviously traffic issues, right? So we know that dispensaries outside of growing, there's going to be frequent, there's going to be a lot of people there. They're going to be going in and out. There's going to be traffic issues. And the last piece here was the procedures of it. So I'll just read exactly what KP Law told me. So there's 2 different procedures for proceeding, right? It all depends on how the municipality voted on the ballot to legalize marijuana in 2016. So because we voted yes, then the question has to be posed to the voters at a regular or special election following a specific process and wording that is set forth in Chapter 94 of the general laws. Because I'm proposing to do the 10%, then it also requires that we need to propose it as a ballot question. So there's 2 steps in the process. One is the bylaw needs to get approved, and then it would go on the ballot. So that's, per KP Law, that's the way it works if your town voted in favor of legalizing marijuana. And that's pretty much all I have for retail establishments. So I know that there was questions about or comments about that the town was in favor of legalization, but there is an option in there, and it's, it's in there for a reason. So that's all I have for that. I don't know if you guys have questions. Other than that, I can just skip to the social consumption and outdoor growing. Again, this is only for informational purposes only, but it looks like that you cannot do on-site social consumption today, but according to KP Law, that there are towns that have adopted zoning bylaws to prohibit the use. I don't know the exact wording on it, but that's something that we could ask them. And then also it was important to note that the municipality needs to opt in via ballot question if they want to support on-site consumption. So again, there's legislation that's still pending for that, to clarify what that process is. So I just wanted you guys to see that. I think the other thing that I did want to note, and I know that all the selectmen received an email. So one of our businesses expressed interest in having it after they told us they wanted to be a closed shop. So I don't know if, I don't know the thought process that they were going to, but I think we need to take a hard look at whether we do want this in town or not. And that's all I wanted, to say about this.
Okay.
Okay, Gary.
Okay. To that, I got a copy of your email.
Okay.
And 100%, well, not 100% right, because I sort of have asked that question. I don't know if I asked it of that particular one. Do they see in the future, perhaps, having on-site social consumption? But I don't really ask it that way. I ask it more on the way of sometimes when you see these little brew pubs that you can take a tour of, and at the end you might get a little sample in that. Mm-hmm. But at most of them, I've never. Some of them now, you do have the option to purchase. Mm-hmm. But not a lot, and that was, and I have asked kind of that sort of a question of most of them, and they've said, well, they're not sure what the future brings. Right. And if I'm reading this right, they can't do that unless the town opts in on that.
That's what I understand.
If I'm reading this right.
Yeah, that's what KP.
So I mean, I don't see that, and I don't see connecting with what you said, because they were talking of it. Am I right? When it was more, they thought of perhaps a tasting something. Is that what they called it? with that
Yeah.
article that you gave. So I
On-site.
don't see that as sales.
On-site
So much,
consumption.
you know, right, yes, I see
this
that
is
coming on the
on-site.
on-site consumption.
Yeah, yeah.
If they offered some sort of tasting
Yeah.
that came up. But
Well, that's what this
if I'm
is.
reading this
This
right,
is
then
on-site
we as a town have to opt into that, the way it's written now.
Right.
So we're sort of covered there.
Yeah, and again, it's just a question I asked
Yeah.
them. You know, I didn't go too deep into it, but they did say that there were other towns that have already adopted zoning bylaws for this, even though it hasn't been fully fleshed out. So I just wanted the board to be aware of it. I'm not asking that we take any action on it, but this is
Yeah, I
information
would,
that I got.
I see this as if somebody wants to go that route, then at this point, they're gonna have to come to us to say, do we need to take action?
Stick along with it. Okay.
Mr. Chair, just to remind the board that when this organization that Selectman Sadler is referring to first came before Mike and I, they had mentioned that they'd like to have a tasting room, to which Mike and I replied, that's not going to fly, so take it off the table. And they took it off the table. Now, they do an interview with a newspaper, and they see, well, they have a vision for their business. That's fine. They have a vision for their business. But they already agreed to not having a tasting room. I just wanted to make sure that everybody was clear on that.
Sure. Okay. And then, just again, for informational purposes only, outdoor growing, KP Law basically says in their opinion, the town cannot restrict outdoor growing for personal use, but we could restrict it for commercial growing. And again, that's just for informational purposes only. If we're concerned about it in the future, that may be something that we want to take a look at. But I think predominantly what we wanted to talk about today was restricting the number of retail establishments. And that's what, you know, I went over that first. So I don't know if you guys have any questions regarding the laws, if you have any comments.
So first of all, Steve, thank you
Sure.
for contacting them and putting this on the screen. It's really helpful information. Kip, go ahead.
Yeah, no, just, so this is great. This makes a lot more sense to me. I know that, you know, there was some, not confusion, but just some clarifications that I think we were looking at. Just, if the town, let's say we adopted this and this law goes into it, this bylaw goes into effect, is the same process to reverse it? Or is this require, say, like a 3-year period where it would have to be in place? Or is it just the same exact procedure to back it out if the town decided to do that?
I think it's like any type of bylaw, right? You know, if you get it on the warrant.
Wasn't there, I thought there was something about 3 years.
I
don't know.
Okay.
You probably have to go through the whole thing again and ask the same question, and it has to be voted
Right.
in the negative.
Right.
Did you,
Okay.
Or you can increase it to 20%.
Sure.
Which would allow additional ones. That's obviously if you grant more liquor license, so.
Kip, you all-
Yeah, that's
is that
that's
Okay.
it, yeah.
and my question was to the percentages, because what you're showing, you're mentioning 10.
Right.
Pass a bylaw, but what does the state say that we're at now? Because this is looking very similar to what we discussed at our last meeting. What was the percentage? Because I believe you gave us the figures.
Well,
20%.
Well, 20%.
It's 20, okay.
20% though, so if, say in 3 years now, we grant the other 4 licenses for liquor, for alcohol sales, then that 20% is gonna be off that number, so
So that's
in
why-
the future, it would go to 2. So
You're
if we do
proposing
10,
taking it from the 20
current today.
to the 10.
Exactly.
Well, did we
Now-
just issue one tonight? Does that count?
No.
No.
Now, those are ones that you can't drink on premise, so this is
Got it,
what
okay.
we're talking
So
about here.
now,
So that's just like your
Now,
package
now,
store.
what was in our present bylaws now, Doug seemed more up to date on this, that the planning board put in.
There was no limitation
Okay,
specified in there.
but I thought that you brought up that the planning board laws, that the planning board bylaws had some
No,
of this
they
covered.
didn't, there was no specification, there was no restriction.
So basically, what we're going off last week was by state law to do with all of this, and you're proposing the town changing that 20% to 10%.
Well, it isn't a change, it's not in our bylaws today. So if 20.
We would be creating a bylaw.
We'd be creating that says 10.
Yeah.
If we wanted to create one that said 20%, we could. We can create one that says 30. We
Well,
can basically do, right?
We're
So,
sort of, the state's sort of giving us a 20% one now, if I'm hearing this right.
well, they've given us, no, you can elect to do 20%. It's not, it isn't in place today. It's not in place today.
Right,
There's
if you want to go less than 20%.
If you
then
want to
need
go
the
less,
second
you need a
step.
ballot
Yes,
question as
okay,
a second step.
that's what I'm, that's
Yep.
what I'm understanding.
Exactly. Right.
I just still, Steve, at this time, I mean, I thank you for all of that. You've cleared a lot up, but at this time, I don't see a need. Matter of fact, I was gonna ask Mike now, has Steve run up any bills here? And can we take these out of the ones that we have?
I'm sorry, I was talking with Doug.
I was stating that I, at this point, don't see the need to go down this road at this point where Georgetown is, based on just what was presented to us last week. What Steve has proposed looks very similar to our, not last week, but our last meeting. And I don't see the need to go down there to spend the funds. We could say, hey, as we do many times, let the people decide, but we also get elected by the people to make decisions. And I, at this point, don't see a need. I've got nobody knocking on my door. And we discussed this last time, and nobody's called me in the last couple of weeks. And then I ended it with, has Steve run up any bills with KP on this that we can take out of that funds? That was.
I haven't seen the bill lately, this month.
Keep track of this, please.
I track all marijuana.
We need it. Okay.
I do.
Any other commentary?
Thank you.
If not, then I'll say that I'm going to basically echo back to my statements, and that is, Gary, unlike yourself, I have, I'll reiterate, I have had a pretty large number of people that have real concerns over the retail. I mean, a lot of them don't have a problem with the business to business. They don't want to be subjected to the retail. The traffic is a big one, for a lot of folks. And then not only traffic, it's the condition of those drivers that they also, as parents, have concerns over. But it's also the reputational risk still is there, especially on the retail side, that have a lot of people spooked. I've actually said it when we started down this road, that I personally didn't want to see any more retail outlets, anyway. So I didn't need anybody else's, feedback, but I have gone it. And I also think that, we can kind of, blaze the trail per se, on how Georgetown kind of, treats the retail, side of this business, by putting it out there. I know that we had discussed that it also might limit some people who might have interest in setting up in Georgetown, because Mike had mentioned that there might be some, court proceeding that they can go through, right, to combat that bylaw. Is that what you said?
Challenge it.
Yeah, to challenge it. But I also think if it's there, like if I'm someone who wants to set up, I don't want to go through a whole court proceeding to set up somewhere. I'd rather go to another town that I identify that doesn't have it, that I don't have to go to court and everything else. So at the very least, I think it's, kind of one of those things that, hey, it's there, it's going to maybe scare off some people, from setting up retail, locations. And So certainly I feel that if it is important to the people I've spoken with, it is important to some of the people on this board, I certainly think it's worth a vote to see if we want to have the townspeople move forward and vote.
I think, just as a note, with the advent of I think the only town around us, going up to Newburyport and Salisbury and coming back to us, the only town around us that has voted no to everything is Groveland. But there's going to be retail shops opening up in all the other towns around us, except Ipswich. So they're going to have a grow facility there. But I think there's 2 in Rowley and are supposedly proposed.
Yeah.
And there's some in Salisbury, this Newburyport, which they're in the process of debating, Amesbury. So they're all around us, which would take some of the fear of it. If people watch these, these people in the business, they watch these meetings. And if they don't see that they're going to have a road to hoe in the town, so they start going to the other communities. So I think that we really need to take that into mind too. And I don't know that where the land that we have designated as a overlay district really is geared towards retail. It's more like commercial, industrial. And I think that a lot of the land that we think that's around town has really been spoken for already.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we have much more other than National Ave that we would get rid of.
Yeah, it's just, it's more to
Oh,
reduce.
no.
Yeah, it's more to reduce the risk provided to the
Yeah.
town. And I think we can all agree that it's still in the infancy stage, and we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how it's going to be received in town. I hope Healthy Farms does a great job with it, and we don't see a lot of traffic. It's in a perfect location, I think. Of all places in town, we start encroaching on residential areas, even though they're within the overlay district. It's going to have a big impact. So, who knows, in 3 years, we can say, hey, these places are great, let's get rid of the
They're going to
bylaw.
be moved out in 3 years
You can't.
when the consolidation,
You can't predict the
consolidation's
future, I
beginning.
agree, but
So one thing I want to make, because you brought up Healthy Farms, Steve, and I want to mention this before it goes. Healthy Farms is going to be changing their name to Mission, Missions. I think it's Mission.
Okay.
And that's with that company Forefront that purchased them.
So they're rebranding.
Yeah, just so you know. And they're going through that process with the state.
Yeah.
And they've already started with the planning board.
Yep.
About a possible expansion into the unused area for laboratories and growing. And then once a building permit is issued, then another window within the host agreement for the medical opens up that we would have to negotiate.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So listen, at this point in time, we have different attitudes about it. Again, I'd like to, I'd like to vote it to see if we want to, put about. Mike, can we vote that tonight, or would we need to kind of get in touch with legal and see what?
Can we vote to ask legal?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I
Yeah,
guess
to put a
that's-
bylaw together to put on the article.
Sure.
The warrant, sorry.
This is the first I've seen this.
Yep,
So did you send that out today?
I did, yep.
What time? Because I didn't see it like around
Yeah, it was
this
later.
afternoon.
It was later, yeah.
I didn't see that either.
I just put, to be honest with you, I had asked KP for this a while ago. I just didn't put this together, so that was, I had that information and we had the discussion, And then I think that there were questions about whether it's already in there or wasn't in there, so I just put it together so it would clarify everything for the board.
I have no problem with what the chair wants. I mean, I think you know which direction I'm going, and,
Sure.
but I have no problem with,
Okay.
if the chair would like to put it to a vote, I'll move, I'll make the motion to put it, I'll move that, I guess the motion would be, do we want to move this to KP Law to put together a bylaw for this year's town warrant? Is that?
Yeah, limiting the number of retailers.
It would be more than that. It would be to move forward this year. It would have to be on the town warrant, and also,
Right,
if
and a
it
ballot.
passes, it would have to be on the ballot.
Correct.
So, I mean,
But
it's
also
just
limiting-
for discussion. Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think we've got the general idea of what it's about.
Well, what's the
Yeah,
motion?
I think we should, we should
Make
encompass
it better?
all of that, that information, because the 10% is a big point, to this.
Because if we don't do 10, then you don't need a ballot. So,
So it's the 10% that's the important, here. So
Yeah.
we would need, a motion to send it to KP Law to form, blah, 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 blah.
Well, they'd be sending it back to us for
Back
approval
to us for
anyways.
approval, that's right.
So,
Right, well, it's not that I don't believe Steve, but I would rather do my own research on what's been presented.
yeah, I think I emailed you guys this information a while back too, so this is from KP Law. I put quotes around
Well,
this stuff. This is an email from them.
Yeah,
And I emailed you guys that a while back. I think you forwarded off to everybody,
I
right?
made a motion.
I
guess it
thought I
didn't get seconded.
did,
Yeah.
and
No, it didn't
I
get
just
seconded.
found an email from Wednesday from Tom McEnany, because I had,
No, this is going way back.
oh, I know, but I had asked him the same question, and I just found the email, he sent it to me.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
And I
Yeah,
just
it's
sent
public.
it, I just forwarded it to
January
the
8th.
board. Well,
Yeah.
this one was February 20th, and it says, essentially, it says everything you said tonight,
Okay,
from what KP Law said.
yep,
They're suggesting even if you're going to limit it to 20%, you have to follow the same regulation,
yeah.
the same procedure. And the options are, you can have a general bylaw instead of a non-general bylaw, which only requires 51% approval. If you do a bylaw developed by the planning board, it's 2/3. And it's a lot easier to, they won't be able to do an official bylaw by town meeting if we went through the planning board. Plus, they already decided they didn't want any limits, or they would have put limits on last year.
Well, we could always, we can't get it through town meeting, for town meeting anyway.
You could do a general bylaw.
Yeah.
Yes.
A general bylaw we can, okay.
You don't have to go through the planning board.
Okay.
Okay. And we still need the ballot question as well.
It's more like, in the letter, it's an option that they recommend. It's belt and suspenders. Because somebody who, if you didn't, because we're a yes town, if we didn't go to ballot and said, well, yeah, we're a yes town, but not when it, not when it relates to limiting the number of retail.
Yeah. I'd want it to go to
Okay.
ballot anyway,
Okay.
because there are people that don't go to
We
town
have
meeting.
time to do that
do a vote,
through
so.
this board.
You should, yeah.
So I'd like to make a motion that we ask,
Don't we have a motion on the floor?
yeah, there's no
That was a
second.
second.
Yeah.
got that motion. Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that we request that KMP create a bylaw, general bylaw, limiting the number of marijuana retailers to 10% of the number of liquor license issued pursuant to General Chapter 138, Section 15.
Second.
Okay, now we have a motion and a second. We have any further discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
So Mike, if you could reach out for that. All right. Steve, again, thank you very much
Yeah, I
for the
appreciate the time,
information. Thank you, everyone, for listening. All right, so we're going to move on to the town administrator's review discussion. Thank you, everyone, for sending me the reviews. I have calculated all of them, okay? Janet, did you print off the cumulative, or Mike, someone, that we can pass around?
I did not. I just sent my
I
own
didn't
copy.
have it.
What's that?
I didn't have it. I don't know when you sent it, but I didn't.
I sent it this afternoon. No? Okay,
I didn't get it before I left.
all right. So what I'll do is I'll actually go through it with everybody. And does everyone want to kind of follow this? You know, I mean, we can certainly make copies or whatever, but you know, long and the short, this all comes based on everybody's feedback that I got. I will note, by the way, Gary, if it's okay, Gary did not submit it, but he did give me his oral score. So he did not provide me, you know, section by section, but he did give me an overall score. So I'll go through this, you know, section by section, so that everyone kind of knows, you know, how this was kind of constituted. Since everyone did not get the copy, I just got back from vacation. I put it together today. I emailed it out this afternoon. Unfortunately, we just do not have copies, so I'll email it to everybody. And Gary, what I'll do is I'll just email it, and then you can come and get a copy. Okay. So the first one on the performance factors, and by the way, Mike does have a copy of this. On the professionalism and pride of work, the cumulative score was 3.4375.
3.5.
Oh,
You didn't use the revised one, so that's all right.
Did we round them?
No, that's okay.
okay. Yeah, well, you know, it's what the calculator came out with. You know, that's basically what it came out to. The second, number 2, was planning and organizing. Mike got a 3.3125. The third one was leadership and decision making. The cumulative score was 3.125. Fourth one was communication. Mike got a 2.6875. Number 5, community relations, 3.25. Cooperation and collaboration, parentheses, teamwork. The cumulative was 3.125. Professional development, number 7, is a 3.0625. Budgeting planning, 3.875. Staff supervision and management, 3.1875. State and federal regulations, 3.5. So the overall score, when I took everything into consideration, was 3.225 when everything was calculated. That was including Gary's 3.1 that he gave me for a cumulative. There was a section, number 11, other performance factors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read verbatim what was entered into this based on, again, feedback from all of the reports. So number 11 was other performance factors. What was entered was, along with Selectman Dawes, Mike has teamed up with Doug to work with our different cannabis businesses that are looking to set up here in Georgetown and get a host agreement worked and signed. Mike worked diligently to help and provide the necessary info for the Board of Selectmen to deliberate and approve the CHAs. This is a big piece of future revenue growth for the town, and I'm comfortable that Mike is in full understanding of policy and expectations. Part 2, development plan. It says below are specific areas for improvement or attention which may increase effectiveness of the town administrator. First and foremost, and I think everyone could derive by the score, it was by far the lowest score that Mike got, and that was communication seems like it is the main area that most of the board seems to be uncomfortable with. Part of the communication is simply the weekly report that was asked for over the last couple of years. This report is not a big brother looking over Mike's shoulder. In my opinion, the BOS feels it is more to understand what is being worked on in that week and maybe learn about the progress in certain areas that are outstanding. Number 2, provide more information within our agenda packets to describe the items for discussion. Number 3, continue to proactively manage the employees in all departments that report to Mike and reassure continuity and progress. Number 4, continue to be proactive and participate in all necessary training that will continue to educate in areas that are more important to town business. Okay, so that was development. Part 3, goal setting. Number 1, specifically to see the sale of National Ave through to the end. By the way, I do have to note that in the reports that I was sent, along with the scores, goals were for some reason one area that I didn't see anybody fill in any information. Okay, so a lot of this is derived from myself. A lot of folks actually did put a lot of information that was tabulated in the development plan. Okay, excuse me. Again, specifically to see the sale of National Ave through to the end was number 1. 2, keep a close eye on our fire department. As we know, we have a contract negotiation coming that we have to deliberate on. We also have been working on some concerning issues that we feel threaten public safety, and we must try to effectively resolve these without further conflict. Number 3 goal, continue to provide different ways to fund our reserve accounts while at the same time adding services for our taxpayers in Georgetown. Let's continue to strive for progress there. Number 4, continue to stay on top of key legislation that may be coming up that may or may not affect what businesses and host agreements that the Board of Selectmen allow in town. In addition, stay in constant contact with HP regarding some guidance that may help us understand expected revenue over the next year for the following budget year. Okay. Those are the 4 goals that are on this report. So what I will do is, with that being said, again, I will email out this to everybody. Are there any comments, questions, that we want to bring up in terms of giving Mike some feedback? Anything on the report that you want to add?
So those goals were for next year? Is that what you?
These goals are for this current year, 2019.
Okay, good.
Well, I'd like to see a weekly report, not a laundry list. A weekly report of what's being worked on, because there are things that are happening that we don't get updated on for whatever reason. So I'd like to see that. I'd like to see the agenda expanded. Even to the point of, Mike, in the areas that would need a motion, he could even, draft a motion, which a lot of, the planning does that, and school, Carol does for the school committee, and like this. There's, well, I forgot what the other one, be proactive in seeking grants.
Okay, and the first 2 points, Doug, are right here on the development plan, so just to note that, right? Number 1 and number 2. Okay. Anybody else have any comments, questions?
Just a couple things.
Yeah.
One, so the goals with, the copy that I had, I tried to recreate it so people could type it in.
Yeah.
You did.
But
which is great.
Did I, maybe it was me, did I not include the goals? Was I missing a page or something? Because I don't remember seeing that now that you say that.
Let me see here. I have yours right here. Yeah, you have NA.
Huh. I guess I just missed that one. Okay.
But you had a fair number in the goals in the development plan are somewhat similar, right? So you had a fair number in the development plan. So you might have put a majority of your information in that.
Yeah, I was looking for my call. I don't know. It's somewhere in here, but anyway.
You want to take a look?
Yeah. So the other, I think the weekly report would be great. I totally understand that. Sometimes for me, it's just kind of hard to keep track of everything that's going on. So I think that would be really helpful. And the other piece was, the agenda. So just the agenda in, just having some context around that. Sometimes we just read the headline. It's really hard to understand what we're trying to do. Like if it's a decision that needs to be made, if it's just a discussion. Sometimes I just don't even know what it is. And it's a few times it's just been a conversation that you've all had a long time ago, and I just didn't know what it was about. But just kind of getting a general sense of what the topic's about and what the goal is. If it's just a discussion, like I said, if it isn't an action item where you're trying to make a decision here, things like that would be super helpful for me.
Mm-hmm.
If I could just add on, for example, like with this Tilson thing, we talked about that in November. Well, I think it was November, wasn't it? Whatever it was, almost 150 days ago. Okay, we talked about that, and it just sort of drifted aside with all the other things that come up that we're addressing.
Yeah.
So you don't really think of it, and we should get a periodic update on those things that are just drifting out there, so that we don't, like tonight, we come to the meeting and say, "Oh my goodness."
Yeah. So saying that weekly update, I spoke with
22nd.
Tilson today, or met with Tilson.
Yeah,
This is what happened.
Yeah. Anything.
Okay. Anybody else? Steve?
I think I've made my, the way we're doing this, I went over this with the chair after the last meeting or before, I can't remember, that we have a policy on how we're to do it, and we're not really following that policy. It was difficult for me to go over Mike's. I met with Mike and I told him I don't see that last year we followed our policy and gave him, it says that we're to give him goals that we can measure. So I had not a lot from last year when we did this process to measure against.
Yeah, this report was given to everybody.
Mike found one, yes, but again, it's not following the policy. It says that we're to do what we did, but then we then get together and go over it, is what it says. And then as a board, we come to a consensus on the goals. Right now, tonight, we've skipped that. You, Mr. Chair, got that together and did that. We've skipped that as a board. So those are some of my...
If I could, Gary, wasn't there some regulations that we couldn't go that route? Like the policy that we wrote, I think, I don't know.
You brought up the fact, I believe, last time that we have to do it in open meeting, and that, I think, is why we sort of skipped it, because we thought that things had changed. Now, we can do it at an open meeting. We can do a lot of it at a workshop-type meeting. I believe what we used to do is we would, sometimes in the past, we'd get together before the meeting and do just what we're doing now. And we'd all look at what we've got, here's what the other guy gave. We'd know what we all gave, okay? And then we'd say, yeah, let's move this forward, let's move this forward. And so we all sort of had a little bit of a voice in it, a little bit more than what we're getting now. And I think that Mike might have gotten better direction out of that. I mean, my point was, I don't think last year we didn't handle it right, so we didn't give the right direction to Mike, and I had nothing to measure against. But so that I did have some input, I gave Joe an overall score, and I discussed with Mike and said I will try to do better on my part of meeting with Mike and going forward on this. So.
And Gary, just so you know, I did not dismiss our conversation, but I was directed this way because of the fear of going against compliance, with open meeting law. And, I have to go that route if that's, kind of what I'm being directed, at.
Well, I mean,
and-
Mike helped put together this policy, so I
Well,
wouldn't think that there's anything in here that's,
Well, when was that policy written? I mean, does that policy have to be rewritten? Because if we can't do that,
That
yeah, it
would
might
help.
have to be updated. Yeah. Because that's the
thing.
feedback I'm
I
getting.
don't, I remember it, and I've got my own copies of it at home, but yeah, one of the things that we're not always good at, it's, I don't know if it's got a date on the end and even has signatures of when it was adopted. So
There is new case law from the Supreme Judicial Court on evaluations vis-à-vis what's personnel and what's public and what can be discussed in non-public. It all changed since that was adopted.
Yeah, so maybe that's what we have to do more so, Gary, is that. But like I said, I wanted you to know, I did not dismiss
Yeah,
that.
and I
did
didn't
follow up
try
on
to put it that way.
I know. I just wanted, I don't want you to think I followed up on it, and I was instructed that more so that is concerning that it had to be, in this form. So go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, if I could, so just, I think you did a good job this year, and I think as we've been working together, I can see that. I may have been a little hard on you in the first year. I admit it, the first one to admit. I think I was coming from private industry, and I just don't think I knew, the lay of the land here. But with that said, I think it would be helpful if you don't mind or object, kind of what are your feelings about what we could do better, because I know it must be real difficult to actually have 5 people asking you, to do stuff. So it's hard to juggle all that. So what are some of the things that you think would help you be more effective if we,
Boy, that's a loaded question.
Change every election.
And again, you don't have to answer. I just wanted to know what your overall thoughts are.
Well, overall thoughts are, I have high expectations on myself, and to just be meeting, and in some cases barely meeting, your expectations is not good enough for me. I mean, I would rather be in exceeding your expectations. So either you guys have real high expectations of me and I'm never going to meet them, or my expectations on myself are pretty high. I have to fit the way I interact with each one of you in your style, not my style. So I react to you. You shouldn't be reacting to my needs. That said, and I take heart, I mean, this is, my communication style is not meeting all your needs. So, I need to do better there. And I'd just like to address one thing, Doug, you had felt I should be more proactive in obtaining grants. This town, and we don't qualify for many grants. We're a rich community. There's a whole area out there, community development block grants. And there's a lot of money, but we don't, Lawrence qualifies for them. We don't. So when they do come available, you know, we've received 2 community grants in the last 3 years. We weren't eligible for the middle year. We only can apply every other year. So I've gotten 2 community cabinet grants. One thing, and Gary's the only one still on this board that might remember when we did the energy saving grant. I wrote and received a $440,000 grant that we get over the period of the loan. It's a 15-year loan, so we get $40,000 every year based on that grant alone. And even though it's not a grant, I have saved the town by making a management decision to pay a little extra on our automobile insurance, where this year we got a $500,000 fire engine. We've also got 2 $27,000 police cruisers and a $50,000 truck, all in the last 5 years, because we get replacement cost guarantee on those vehicles. So, yeah, I think I've brought in, you know, a lot of savings and a lot of grants to the town in the last 9 years.
Well, the truck alone, that was big.
Well, that was an insurance decision. It was a good decision that he made. That's not a grant. That wasn't.
Would it help? I'm sorry.
Stating that I thought there should be more proactivity in seeking grants wasn't any slight on a decision to make an insurance, additional option for that.
Yep.
It's not a grant.
Gotcha.
So grants are more, maybe we don't, because the town has, the median income of the town has advanced over the last 20 years, over to like, it's $100 and some odd thousand is median right now.
Mike, so going back towards the notes, the weekly updates and the agenda, would it be helpful if we each kind of provide what we're looking for? So then we give you the immediate feedback and say, here's what we're looking for, as opposed to us coming at the end of the year saying that we didn't get what we had asked, but you don't really have any idea what the expectation is from us.
Well, I think I do now.
Okay, I mean, if
So
you're comfortable with it, that's fine. I don't know if.
Well,
I'm looking for ways to help.
We'll have to fine tune it.
Yeah, I'm just looking for ways to
I'll start providing
help.
that
Yep.
additional information. Yeah, we'll just have to maybe hold the line and make sure everything's in on Wednesday instead of Thursday at 12, because that doesn't give Janet any time or me any time to embellish on that information.
I agree, yep.
Normally, our practice has been, you know, everything's coming in at the last minute on Thursday afternoon. We need it to do a professional job and give you the best information Wednesday noon. Anything comes in after that goes to the next, it either goes with very little information or it has to wait till the next meeting.
Yeah. I think the other thing too, and this is just my final point, is, I mean, I encourage you at the end of the year to, you know, as you told us tonight, you know, the things that you've done, I encourage you to send those to the board. And, you know, toot your own horn, basically, right, as the saying goes, because I think that'll help, you know, because there may be things that we just don't know that you're doing that is helping the town. But again, I mean, I think overall, I think you did a good job this year, and I think at least from my perspective, you know, you met all expectations, and I think was close to exceeding, I think, one of them. So I think overall, good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. So listen, as you all have noticed, we're getting late. So two things. Number one, you know, like prior years, we voted on giving Mike a small bonus, you know, for the performance. He went up last year. Last year it was 3.082. That was the second straight year he went up. This year again we're at 3.225. The last couple of years, Mike agreed that we've given him $1,000 bonus. I'd like to throw it out there.
I think it's automatic with the score that he got.
Yeah, I think that is.
What?
I think that's automatic with the score that he got. No?
No.
It's, pretty sure it's higher.
Yeah, I remember.
Like
I think
said,
it's three and a half.
high expectations.
Yeah, I think it's 3.5. So what I'd like to do is see if the board, again, just to kind of round table, I'd like to see if we can give them a little bit more this year, from 1,000 to 2,000. Does anybody?
I'm fine with that. I think we should know, look over the contract and be sure. I thought it was 275, but I could be wrong.
275 for what?
2.75.
2 score? No, because we voted 2 straight years to have to give him $1,000, you know, on the bonus. Never mind for.
I think it's 3 points.
Yeah, I think it's 375. Yeah, it's not 275.
375.
Yeah. So if I can get a motion.
I didn't give you a high enough score.
So if I can get a motion to provide Mike that bonus, I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we
award.
Yeah, we award Mike $2,000 towards what's it, a retirement? Is that what we're?
Yeah, it's deferred income.
The deferred income for the current fiscal year, based on his review.
Okay, and we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yes, is that the contractual amount that I believe the 2,000, right?
It is.
And we're not quite sure on where the score needs to be, but okay. So
Sure.
basically we'd be.
It's 3.75.
It is
Yeah.
3.75, okay.
Maybe it was 3.5, but it's 375. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Everybody was aye? Okay, fantastic. All right,
Thank you.
you're welcome, Mike. Great job. And by the way, like I said, I will email this out for everybody to review. Mike will actually add his notes to this. We'll get it signed and we'll put it in his file along with the individual reports that I did receive, okay? All right. In addition, by the way, I'm sorry to have to, one other point. So Mike's contract is up in June. So what I'd like to do is, before our next meeting, get together before our next meeting in executive session to start talking about contract for Mike, okay, as a group. The last two didn't seem like it fit everybody's expectations. So as a group, we'll get together in executive session at 6 o'clock, and we'll start chatting about that. Okay.
A question about that, Mr.
Yep.
Chair. So, with the election coming up, how do we typically go about that? Do we let, if there's a new selectman, do we let them finish that contract, or do we try to get it done before?
I think the contract calls for it to be done in at least 90 days before the end of the
Okay.
year.
It needs to be done sooner than later.
Yeah, I'd
So
like
we
to
need
get it
do it before
town
before the
meeting.
election.
Yeah.
yes.
and I'd like to
Okay.
get it done before
No, I
the
just wanted
end
to make
of
sure.
March.
Okay, good.
Okay, that's my target date.
No, that's
okay.
perfect. Okay.
All right. Just to move on, once again, not that it's not important, but let's pass over the Christmas tree lighting. Committee chair will put that on the next agenda. Mike, anything more on the town administrator's report?
Yeah, there were two things. The budget process, we're meeting with the budget committee on Wednesday. They're going over the school's budget. That's the only item on the agenda. I did get and we all got the school budget documents. I plugged them into the budget, and I think the last time we had a meeting and you had access to the budget builder, it was 190,000 in deficit. We got a tough row to hoe because we're 460,000 in deficit right now with the all-in school budget on top of the 190. So.
Wait a minute, on top of the 190, or that's the total?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the total. Okay.
Yeah, the total is.
Budget though is what, an increase, or is that level funded?
Oh, it's.
Level service,
Level service.
Level
That's
service.
level service, okay.
not level funded.
No.
Well, I know that the finance committee asked for both, so that's why
Yeah.
I asked, right? They said give one for level funded, one level service.
Yeah,
So that's 460,000, though. What we'll note is that, without really looking at some things that we're gonna obviously have to cut. I mean, there are some things I almost, will have, pretty easy for me, I think, to kind of look at and say, we can't do this or this, this year.
Well,
So-
and I have been, I don't want to say preaching, but I've been noting that that doesn't include any cannabis revenue. It's zero. We know we're going to be guaranteed $200,000 for medicinal cannabis from Healthy Farms in 2020.
2020.
Yeah. And that, I believe, needs to be in the budget as a revenue. So that would cut our current deficit in half almost.
Yeah, and again, there's some other things that, let's not get into them now, but, we can kind of approach those. Anything further, Mike?
No.
Okay, thank you for that. Just quickly, let's go through appointments. Doug, you want to go over these?
Okay. I'll do this one
Hang in there,
first.
Kipper.
I move that we appoint Paul E. Rondo as a registrar of voters, term to expire March 31st, 2022.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Any discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay.
No,
We passed over this. I'm not doing this.
no, not tonight. Nope.
Okay, so I move that we reappoint the Inspector of Buildings and Zoning Enforcement Officer, Les Godin, term to expire March 31st, 2020.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Okay, if not, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you, Doug.
I move to reappoint the alternate inspector of buildings, Glenn Closey, to expire March 31st, 2020.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I move to reappoint gas plumbing inspector, William Giancopoulos, to a term to expire March 31st, 2020.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion on that? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
I move to reappoint alternate gas plumbing inspector, Stanley Kulas, to expire March 31st, 2020.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I move to reappoint wire inspector, Mark Unger Senior, to expire March 31st, 2020.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second on that. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And finally, I move to reappoint alternate wire inspector, Carl Maglio, to term to expire March 31st, 2020.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Discussion on that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it. Going up to warrants and minutes, we need to approve the minutes of February 11, 2019. Any discussion on those?
Motion to approve the minutes of February 2nd, 2007, February 11, 2019 as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion on that? Okay, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Mike, do we have to go over anything on the ATM or STM?
No.
No? Okay, so we'll pass that over. Anybody else have anything to add? No?
If I did, I've forgotten it right now.
All right. Okay, so if not, can I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Good night, everyone. Thanks for staying up.